What's up, guys? So today we're going to do another cloning tutorial, and today we're going to do the netflix.com landing page. So this is the page that you come to when you type in netflix.com and you're not already signed in or signed up. This is where it brings you first to basically get started with like a plan. So this is actually my page. Let me get the original up here. I thought I was looking at the original, which is a good sign. That means I did a pretty good job, right? Get rid of that one. So this is the original. Okay, so we're going to make, like we always do, we're going to take a few creative liberties here. We're going to leave out a few little features because we don't want to do a ton. We don't want this to be a 7-hour tutorial with 1,000 lines of JavaScript. They don't actually use too much JavaScript. This is one of the few large companies that I've cloned so far where their page isn't just ridiculously crazy with unneeded features, which is cool. So like I said, we're not going to do every single little JavaScript feature, like this, for example. So they have like trending now titles, and then if you click the arrow, it'll make them go. The movies go over to the top 10. I'm just going to show like 6 of the videos like here. So we'll give it that effect where it kind of pops out if you hover over it. And then on smaller screens, we'll make, we'll 3 and 3 column and then 2 and 2. We got all these little boxes here, which are pretty much the same. My stuff's a little bit bigger because they literally, guys, within the last day, they changed their width of their containers so that their stuff is like super scrunched up to the middle now. And it wasn't like that like less than 24 hours ago. It was more like mine where stuff, there's a container, there's some padding, but it wasn't like way into the middle, so that's fine. That's how ours is going to be. Ours is going to be, like I said, it's not going to be pixel perfect. We'll still have this little feature where it pops up when you hover over it. The JavaScript that we are going to do is the frequently asked questions area. So here's theirs, and here's what ours is going to look like. So we will do this. If you click on this, here's your question. You click on that plus icon turns into an X, and then the answer to your question. And then if you click on anywhere in this container, or you can click on the icon if you want, it'll go back up. So how much does Netflix cost? Way too much, right? So these companies are getting out of control, man. It's so bad now that like I kept Netflix because my kids watch stuff on there, but like Peacock and the other ones, it's so bad that if you don't spend like $30 a month now for their premium, you get ads every like 5 minutes. It's like you're watching TV in 1990 again. So it's like that just defeats the whole purpose of streaming, of buying the service, right? Then we got another email down here, just like they have another email area, and then our little footer menu, and then another little language selector like we have up here. So again, it's not going to be pixel perfect, but it's going to be very close. And this will be, really fun. This will be a cool little thing to do. And then, like, the reason I do this, guys, is because I want you to get used to cloning, like, famous websites that you can, like, put something decent on your portfolios where people can be like, wow, like, you want to show employers or potential freelance clients or whoever that you're good enough to do professional grade work. And the easiest way to prove that as, like, a new developer is to just clone real giant companies where, like, there's probably a team of 10 or more people that worked on this page, like on certain areas, right? And then if you can be like, yo, I can just do this all by myself, that just proves not only to yourself, but to anybody else who might want to hire you that you're capable of doing professional grade work, like right out of the gate, okay? Because this is, even though it's mostly just front end, this is still impressive if you can duplicate this. So really quick before we get started, check the link in the description. I do have a complete full stack web developer course, link in the description. Go check it out. It's 100% project based. We take you through HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and full stack PHP, where we also learn MySQL database. If you check out buy now or get started links, it'll take you right to the curriculum if you want to check that out. 444 lessons, but don't let that scare you. Every video is 5 minutes or less on purpose because it's much easier to learn this stuff with quick, short videos. I don't make 30-minute, hour-long, 2-hour tutorial videos in my course like a lot of other course creators do because that's just a terrible way to learn. It's way too much information at once and you'll be falling asleep. Mine are 5 minutes, bam, 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 bite-sized. Get the concept, go do it yourself, keep learning. Again, 100% project-based. So look, learn HTML. We build a whole giant HTML only website to learn HTML. I don't sit there and do theory. I don't show you headers and paragraphs and single videos and, this is a font, this is this. That's so boring. We just build stuff right away. It's a much more natural and easy way to learn. Learn CSS. There's one lesson intro, and then everything is just a project. Straight projects, okay? Then we get to JavaScript. Learn JavaScript. Intro. Start building projects. 1 project, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 and counting just for JavaScript. Learn PHP. Now we're going to get into full stack. We're going to build login systems. We're going to see how pages work, how they're connected, how data is saved to a database. Stuff that a lot of people don't teach. They usually just teach front end. I teach you the whole thing. Build a login app. We build a full stack to do app. We learn how to build a content management system like WordPress, where you can log in, have blog posts, have authors, delete, update posts, stuff like that, okay? And then the big enchilada, I teach you how to find a 9-to-5 job, how to make money, how to freelance, how to make money as an entrepreneur, everything that you can want to know. Okay, there's another 10 bonus lessons at the end, so you can actually know exactly what to do, exactly what to have on your portfolio, exactly how to find clients or find a job, or how to make money as an entrepreneur like me by creating something I like to call a business system. What you're watching right now on YouTube, guys, yes, it's a tutorial and I'm going to help you out, but this is a business system to where I make money all the time. People buy the course all the time, okay? They buy. It's really nice when you can use your skills to actually make money instead of just being in tutorial hell forever. I want to help you get out of there. Also, link in the description, guys. If you don't want to buy a course, you're like, hey, man, I just want to build this clone. Stop selling me stuff. I totally get it. But this is 100% free. The Practical Web Dev Roadmap. It'll tell you step by step exactly what you have to do to get your first freelance client or to get hired at a 9-to-5 job, what skills to learn, when to learn them, what concepts to learn. Okay, that's another very important thing. You don't want to spend a year perfecting JavaScript. Learn the simple basic concepts. I'll tell you exactly what to learn, and then stop. Go build, go get a life, learn everything else when you have to later on. Okay, so check that out. Completely free, complete web developer, practical web dev roadmap in the description. All right, guys, let's start building the project. All right, guys, so let's get started building the project. So I'm going to right-click, make a new folder on my desktop. You can make your folder wherever you want. If you're on Windows, put it on your desktop, put it in your C drive. I'm on Mac, so I'm just going to put mine here in my desktop. And I'm going to call my project folder Netflix clone. Then I'm going to open up Visual Studio Code. That's what we're going to be using for this project. And hopefully you're familiar. I'm assuming 99% of you are already using Visual Studio Code, the free text editor that everybody uses nowadays. It's going to drag and drop my project in there to open it. Of course, you can also go to File, Open, Desktop, and open it that way. I always just drag my projects in. We got to make our files, so we're going to need HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and an image folder. So let's do that now. We'll say index.html, do style.css, and then I'll call my JavaScript folder app.js, and then I'll make a new folder, and I'm just going to call it img for all my images. So let's connect everything. Let's get our HTML boilerplate here. So I'm going to hit Shift ! Tab. That'll give me all my boilerplate code for my HTML. And then I need to link my CSS and JavaScript before I forget. So let's go above the title, below the last meta tag, and make a link tag. And then let's put our style.css in the href. Make sure our rel says style sheet. It should be auto-completing this for you if you're using VS Code. But if you're not, make sure it looks like that. And then to connect our JavaScript, we'll go above our closing body tag, and we'll make a script tag. And then we'll put our src attribute, our source attribute, and we'll say, hey, connect that to app.js. And then we can make sure, and what you always want to do is make sure that your external files are connected to your HTML correctly before you actually start building the project. So we'll do that. We'll make an h1, and we'll say test. And we'll go to our CSS, and we're going to do a couple things here. We're going to first select everything, the whole page, using the asterisk symbol. And we're going to do what's called a CSS reset. So we're going to say margin 0, padding 0, box sizing, border box. What this does is it gets rid of the default margin and padding that Chrome, Safari, all of the web browsers have built into their system. You want to get rid of that so you have complete control over how your design works, and that's the easiest way to do it. Next, we'll give our H1 a color. So we'll say color red, and then let's launch our page live. So I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. And you should have, if you don't, most people already have this, but see this little go live down here? If you click on that, it'll open up our project on our preferred web browser live so that we can actually build it and update it live as we go. Every time we save, it'll update. So here's mine. If you don't have go live and you're new to Visual Studio Code or you just don't have it yet, click on this extensions tab. These are basically like little plugins that you can use. And if you just type in the word live server will come up first. You'll click install up here. It'll install it. It might have you restart the program, and then you'll be able to go with live server and do that. And then now whenever we make updates, so if I make a paragraph here and I say hello, and I can save the page, I can go to File, Save. Now it'll update every time we save. So you can go to File, Save. I use Command S on Mac to save. I think it's Control S on PC to save your file shortcut. So yeah, that's live server if you don't have it yet. So now let's we know our CSS is working because there's no margin and padding, and our red style is coming in on the H1, so we're good there. Let's go to app.js and let's write a little piece of JavaScript to make sure that this is connected. So I'm going to do something called an alert, which will just give us like a pop-up basically. And I'm going to say alert JS connected and save. Boom. And then when we save, our JavaScript is working, so it's giving us that little pop-up that says JS connected. And now every time you load the page with the JavaScript alert, it'll redo the pop-up. So this is how they used to do pop-ups way back in the 90s. They would use an alert. Pretty cool. All right, so let's get rid of that. We don't want that continuously showing up. And we can get rid of we'll keep that for now. We'll get rid of the paragraph. And now let's go ahead and set up our title for the page. So right here it says document. We're going to put what the real Netflix has. So let me just pull up the real Netflix page. And our title has to say Netflix, watch TV shows online, watch movies online. So a dash and a comma in there. So let's make ours look like that. So we'll delete this document text here and we'll say Netflix dash watch TV shows online, comma, watch movies online. Okay. And now if we hover, we have the same little, this is the title, and then after it would be the tagline. So now ours looks like theirs. There we go. There we go. Perfect. So now to complete this area, of course, we need to put the little Netflix logo up here, which is called the Favicon. So let's go get our Favicon. At least that's like the technical term for, the little browser logo called Favicons. So let's go to Google and let's just type in Netflix logo, and we're just looking for the big N. So here it is right here. Let's see what else. That one might be a little too big. Looks like they're all pretty much that. So let's grab this one. I'm going to right click and save image as. And I'm going to save it as Netflix Favicon. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to canva.com, which is just free photo editing software. I'm sure you've heard of canva.com by now, but if not, here it is. You can sign up. It's completely for free. And then I'm just going to I'm going to click custom size design, create new. And I want 500 by 500. And what we're going to do now is just size up our Favicon so that it has a nice sizing to it. So I'll upload our files. You can see I've already did this a couple days ago when I first built the project, but I'll do it new with you. So we'll upload our icon and put it in here. So there's our Netflix logo. So now we just want to make this big because this is going to be like our Favicon. So I'll make it like that big, make it a little bit smaller. Center it. And then what we'll do is we're going to click share, download, and then download again. It's going to come out as untitled design -png. So you can rename that if you want. So on my other screen here, I'm just going to rename it Netflix Favicon sized. And then I'm going to go to another website because now we've got to remove the white background so it's transparent. So let's go to another website called remove.bg. And I'm going to upload the image. Netflix Favicon sized PNG. I'm going to open that. And that's going to remove that background, the white background, so it's just transparent. Just like that. And then we're going to download the preview free version. So another free tool. And then there it is, Netflix Favicon size PNG, remove background preview. So let me show you what I got here. So here it is. I'm just going to rename the file. And I'm just going to have it be Netflix Favicon. And I'm going to replace the old one that I had called Netflix Favicon. And then we're going to do one more step. I know, kind of a lot of steps, but we're almost done. We're going to now go to a website to generate our favicon. So I'm going to type in favicon generator. And I always use this one, realfavicongenerator.net. It's just another free online tool that helps you get favicons. So we're going to click pick your favicon image, which we already have. And it's right here, Netflix Favicon. So we're going to open that. It's going to give you a preview of what your Netflix favicon is going to look like. So it looks like it's going to be pretty much identical to the real Netflix, which is good. And then we're going to go all the way down and click next. And then we're going to do first we're going to copy this link up here, this icon, Favicon 96 by 96. Copy just this one. And we're going to paste it into our head of our document. So we'll put it right here above our CSS and our last meta tag. Okay. And then we got to actually download our favicon package. So click download your favicon package. It'll come in a favicon.zip folder. And then, so here's mine. I'm going to unzip it. And then I just want the favicon 96 by 96 PNG. So let's drag that over into our project and into our image folder. Okay. And now last step, since then that's all we need. It's going to give you a bunch of other favicons for other stuff. You don't need any of those. That's all you need is the 96 by 96. So go into your index.html now. And that link that we just typed in for our PNG favicon, we need to change our href so that it actually goes to the file path of our favicon that we have. So we got to delete this. It's in our image folder, and it's the favicon 96 by 96.png. So we'll save. And then after we save, go back to our projects here. And here's our project that we're making. So I'm going to just refresh my page. And then there's our Netflix. Look at that. It's identical. So now we have the Netflix title and favicon area exactly as the real Netflix has it, which is good. So a few more things that we need to do to set up our project. The next thing I want to do is grab the font that we're going to need. So if we right click and inspect into our Google Developer Tools, we can see what kind of font Netflix uses on their website by hitting the Selector tool down here and hovering over it. And this is how I get a lot of the styles for websites that I clone, guys. Use your developer tools. If you don't know how to use Chrome Developer Tools, I have a whole little 10-minute tutorial that tells you all the basics you need to know. I'll put that link in the description if you want to check that out. But this is how you see what styles are. So if we just hover above it, it says font. On the third option down, it says font, 16 pixels, and they're using a font called Netflix Sans. So that means that they have their own custom font that their own little developers made up for specifically for Netflix. So we're not going to be able to get Netflix Sans, at least not without jumping through 30 hoops, which I don't want to do. But what we can do is we can get a Google font to use that's very comparable to that, so it still looks almost identical to the real Netflix. So to do that, we'll close out our favicon generator, and we'll just do a quick Google search, and we'll say, what is a Google font comparable to Netflix Sans? And then Google's AI will say, you can use Roboto, Enter, Work Sans, or Open. There's Open Sans as well. So probably Open Sans, since it pretty much says Sans instead of just Netflix. That'll probably be the closest. So Let's click on that on Google Fonts. And then I want Open Sans right here. So let's click Open Sans, get font, get embed code, copy all of this embed code right here. We're going to paste that into the head of our document. So I'll put that above my style sheet. Okay, so that's connecting us to Google Fonts now. And then I'm going to grab this font family code because we need that. So it should be Open Sans with the fallback of sans serif. So copy that. And then I'm going to go above the H1. I'm going to select my whole body. And I'm just going to put my Open Sans font in there. And then we can check our design. And our font did change to the Open Sans. So we'll use that font to clone the page. The last thing that we need to do is there is a few little icons that we need to grab. Like this is called a chevron right. That's used for the call to action button to sign up for the email. We need to get a plus symbol and an X. So to do that, we're going to use a free tool again called Font Awesome. So let's just go here. fontawesome.com is the website. So fontawesome.com. And then if you've never used Font Awesome before, it's just a bunch of font icons that you can use on websites for free. There's also a premium tier if you want to get access to 30,000 different ones. But these are some of the free ones you can use. You can search for whatever you need here. If you haven't already, you do need to create like a little, what they call a kit. So you have to sign up for an account, give them your email, and then you get this thing called a kit. So it'll take you through that step by step. I'm not going to do that and spend 10 minutes on that now, but go ahead, sign up for your email. You'll click Add New Kit. And all it does, when you get your kit, it'll be right here. And it'll just be like a little snippet of JavaScript code that you use to connect to Font Awesome, just like we did with Google Fonts just now, so that you can have access to their fonts and use them on your website. So I'm just going to copy that. And again, I'm going to put that in the head of my document above my style sheet. Okay, and that's all you have to do to add Font Awesome is sign up, get that thing called a kit, copy your kit code, put it in the head of your document. If you go to search, we can select one of the Font Awesome icons like house, copy it, and then just to make sure that it's working, we can just paste it below our H1 and save. If we go check our page now, there's the house icon. Okay, so that's good to go. So let's delete that. We don't need any icons yet. And that's it for like the setup of the document. Now what we'll start doing is we'll build the little main navigation area or the header. So we have like a navigation, we have a big background image, and then this is what's called a showcase area where you have some big text, a call to action, usually stuff like that. So we call that the showcase. All right, guys, so we'll start building that now. All right, so we're gonna need to grab the Netflix logo here. We got to get some images, right? So there's the logo. There's this big background image that we need for this top part. So how about right now, guys? I'm gonna show you how to get the images for this stuff. So pretty much none of these, on some of the cloning sites that we do, we're able to right click and save image as, but Netflix either makes all of these background images or they render them with some kind of framework to where we can't just copy and paste them. Maybe it's all rendered with JavaScript, this whole page. Who knows? People like to overcomplicate stuff and render everything with some fancy framework or whatever just to make things more complicated than they need to be. And because of that, we're not going to be able to just get these images by right-clicking and saving, not even the logo. So what I did to get all those, I'll show you what I did because we're just going to take care of the images now, and I'm going to give you two choices. One choice is to go to the description of this video, download this project code from GitHub, go into the images folder from there, and just copy all of my images right over into your image folder so that you have the images that way. Okay, that's the easiest way for you to get all the images here because I already got them before when I built this before, making this page for the video. Or for the Netflix logo, you're going to go to google.com. Oh, sorry. You're going to go to google.com and type in Netflix logo. And you're going to grab, it looks like it's this one. So you're going to grab this, follow all the steps we did before, go to removebg.com, everything that we did before, make sure that this is transparent with no background so that you can use it here. And then you're going to need to get the background image for this, which of course we're not going to be able to get this exact same background image. But again, I already got that. If you go in the description, download my GitHub code, download the file, unzip it, go into my images folder, I have all the images for you. because it's kind of a pain in the butt to get these. So what I had to do to get the background image is I went to, I think what did I type in? It took me a second. I just typed in like Netflix background, maybe. I think that's all I typed in. And then I eventually found the one that I went with. I think it was this one. No, not that one. Maybe this one is the one that I used. Yeah, I think it was this one. So if you just type it in, find this image, and it's like a wallpaper. I don't know if it was this one. Maybe it was one of these. It wasn't one. There's tons of these here, but anyway, I already went over this. Here it was probably this one. This is a good one. This is 1900 by 820. That's good. So get an image that you can use for the background. If not, if you don't want to get mine, go search them for yourself. You're just gonna have to get your own little background image because we're not gonna get the same one on the official page. Okay, but that's not a big deal. Just get a big Netflix. Type in like Netflix background wallpaper image. Grab that. And then for all the rest of the images, see like this popcorn right here? If you're on Windows, you have your snipping tool. If you're on Mac, you can do Shift Command 4. And what I did is I just took since the whole background of this page is black, that doesn't matter. I just took little screenshot images of just this little areas like that, and then saved it as a screenshot on my desktop. And then I converted it over to like a JPEG file and then put it that way. So I just like literally, I screenshotted the popcorn. I screenshotted every one of these trending now movie covers. See how they have like the number 1 in there? You could technically do that with HTML and CSS, but that would be a huge pain in the butt. And we want to make this as easy on ourselves as we can. So I just screenshotted the number. I remember the whole background of everything is black. So if you get a little of the background black in there, it doesn't really matter because it's going to be black anyway. Nobody's going to be able to tell. So just take little screenshots of every little thing. Okay, so I just took a screenshot of that and save them all and then convert them to like JPEGs, because I know when you convert stuff on Mac OS, it comes out as like an HEIC image for your screenshot, and it's like this huge gigantic file. And then you can either use like an online tool, you could say like PNG converter or something like that to convert your file sizes. Select your file, convert it to PNG or JPEG or whatever. Or like on Mac, what I did was I would get my image as a screenshot, and then let's like, for example, let's get rid of this. So I'm trying to show you guys what I did. So I just screenshotted the Wednesday thing, right? So I would click it, go into my preview, and then on Mac you can go File, Export, and then I would export it as a JPEG. So it was like a way smaller file size, 25 kilobytes, and I would rename it like Wednesday movie or whatever you want to name it. Okay, and then I would just have that file go to my downloads file. So see, I already saved a Netflix movie. So here's a Wednesday movie, and then I would just drag that right into my folder and see how that looks. Okay, that's how you get the images for this project, because there's no other way. Same thing with these little icons here. There's no other way to save those. You just have to copy and screenshot them. Snipping tool or screenshot, and then whatever. That's how I got all the images, guys. These are going to be icons, so don't got to worry about that. So do that now. If you want to do that on your own, that's how I got the images. That's how you're going to have to do it. Okay. If you want to skip all that headache, go to my GitHub, and this project will have, well, I'll show you here. I'll go to GitHub, and again, link in the description for this, and I'll just type in Netflix because I already have my first copy saved. Okay. So go here, whatever it might be. It's probably going to be a different one. You can go to this one, though, too, Netflix clone script, whatever you want to go to. Just open up the repository, and you can go to code. You can download the whole zip file if you want, or you can just click on image, and you can just click on them and download each image if you want. I would just download the whole repository, unzip it, and just take my image file. And I have all the images you're going to need. Netflix logo. I have the movies. I have the profiles, the little icons, the popcorn one. I've got them all. So if you just want to make your life easy, get the images that way, or do what I said, take those steps to get the images yourself. When you're cloning websites like this, guys, you're not always going to be able to right click and save the images as. You have to get creative with what you do, and that's what I did here. But there's always, where there's a will, there's always a way, right? You got to solve these problems, especially if you want to be a developer. It's not always going to be cut and dry and easy to get something done. So you got to persevere and critical think and use your brain, right? So anyway, that's enough. I'm going to use all the images that I already have. I'm not going to spend an hour here getting images with you guys. So go ahead and pause the video now and get the images whichever way you want. All right, so I got all my images over here through the magic of editing. So now we're going to go ahead and start building this. So the background image that I decided to use for that was the one that looks like this. So it's got these ones. And you can find these on Google Images. You'll find this background somewhere. Just type in Netflix wallpaper or something like that, and there'll be a bunch of different ones. You just want to get Netflix titles as your background image, just like the real page has it, okay? So the first thing we need to do is build like this header navigation area where we have logo, and then we have this little drop down where you can select your language, and then on the real Netflix, if you choose Spanish, it'll all come back in Spanish. And this feature actually wouldn't be too hard to build at all. All you would do was like have classes on everything, and then maybe like change the language that way with JavaScript when they selected a new thing, just reload the page like they do. It's actually pretty easy to do that, but again, we're not going to do that functionality, but we will have the drop down here and then a little sign in button. So we're going to do that first, and then we're going to do the background and then all of this stuff here. So let's focus on the logo and this part first. So I'm going to start up here right underneath my body, and I'm going to make a header tag. So let's say header. And then within there, I'm going to make a container, so our .container class, which we're going to make with CSS. It's going to be our little utility class so that we get our padding on the sides of the design just like the real Netflix. So let's do that. We'll just say, we'll make a div with the class of container. So if I do .container, it'll give me a div with that class name. And then let's style our container now, because this is going to be like one of our main classes. So let's get rid of the H1 for now. And we'll say .container. And for our container, we're going to say width 90%. We're going to say margin auto. And we're going to say max width 1800 pixels. So that's as long as our design is going to extend for those extra big monitors. 1800 pixels is pretty much like the new norm. I'm on a 32-inch monitor for building this project with you guys, and people have even bigger monitors than I have. So it's just like monitors are basically like TVs now, right? So make our max width pretty big. So now everything will have a little bit of padding and margin as we go in. We can also comment our CSS. It's always good to comment where your stuff is. So up here is going to be all of our what I'll call global styles that we'll use multiple times and that control the whole page. And then below it, it'll be like the header nav area. So let's just copy this comment. And that's a multi-line CSS comment, guys. You can get that shortcut-wise on Mac by hitting Command in question mark or CTRL question mark on PC. It'll give you a multi-line comment. So let's say header / navigation showcase, because it's all pretty much going to be in one. We're going to put everything all together in the same kind of section within the header and everything. All right, let's go back to our HTML. So we have our container, we have our header. Now within there, we're going to have our navigation. So we're going to use nav tags. So we'll say nav, and I'll give this nav a class of main-nav. And then in here, we're going to have our logo, and then we'll put the logo by itself, and then we'll put these two in like a little unordered list menu so that they can, and then we'll use Flexbox to put them side by side and space between so that they're on opposite sides. So we'll do, the first thing we'll do is the logo. So we'll say image, and we'll give it a class of nav-logo. And then to get the logo image, we're going to go to my IMG folder, and I have mine saved as Netflix logo.png. And then for our alt text, we can say Netflix logo. Oops, there we go, Netflix logo. If we save, we see it's really big. We'll resize it in a second, but we know it's there, so that's good. And then below the image, we'll do our unordered list. So let's go right below the image, and we'll say UL, and we'll give it a class of main nav menu. And then we'll have list items, LIs. And I'm going to give all my LIs in this list a class of nav li. It's always got to give everything pretty much classes so that I can easily grab on, style them, differentiate them if I need to style them later on in the project, just to make my life easy. So even if I never use the class, everything has a class, and then that makes it more scalable in the future. If you need to change stuff really easily on a certain element or group of elements, you already have that class there and you can make those changes. So we'll do li. And we're going to do, the first thing that we're going to do is kind of like a form, like a selector. So you would normally put this in a form, and then when you select something, it would submit the form and change the page. At least that's how I would do it if I was using like PHP. And they do something like that here, because when we do Espanol, it reloads the whole page. Like it almost takes us to a new thing. So it takes us to a new page, pretty much like a link. I don't know. They do it somehow. There's a million ways you could do it. But so what I'm going to do here is within the li, I'm going to put a form tag, and then we're not going to have an action because that's only used if you're using a backend language like PHP. If you want to know like what action does and how the full stack works and get that whole picture of web development, which I recommend you do as soon as possible, again, check out my complete web developer course, link in the description. I will teach you PHP and we'll learn the whole stack so you know exactly what the big picture is of everything. So we got form, then we're going to do a div with the class of this is going to be like our language selector. So I'm going to give it, it's going to be within a wrapper so that we can give it some style. So I'm going to call it language selector wrapper. And then within there, we're going to say select. This is how you basically make drop downs. Use the select tag. And then I'm not going to give it a name because we're not submitting. Again, name is part of the full stack where if you were going to submit it to a backend, it's going to grab onto that name so it knows what you're talking about. But we're not using that, so we're not going to use that. We'll just delete it. And we don't need an ID, but we can say, we'll give it a class, and we'll call it language selector. And then within our selects, we have to have the option tag so that we actually get options to select. So we'll say option. And you might have never made a select little form thing before. This might be your first time, but it's kind of rare, but you may use them sometimes. So the value for the first one, we'll put English. And then in the option itself for the actual text, it's going to say English with a capital E. And then we can just copy this option down. And then we can say Espanol, so ESPANOL. And then I'm just going to say, let's see, can I just copy that? We'll just do this. We'll say, whoops. I'll just say Espanol. I'm too lazy to give the little thing over the O. If you want to look up how to do that, go for it. I'm not doing that. We know what it says, right? What else? So we have our selector here, our logo. So now we just need to make, we need to make our sign-in button. So we have just like a little red sign-in button so we can go below this li in our form. And let's make this big. And we'll say .nav li. And then we'll give it an anchor tag. And we're going to get rid of the href because it's not going to go anywhere. But we will give it a class and we will call it sign in BTN, and then we'll just have the text sign in. So it's basically going to be a link that we're going to style to look like a button. That's how I'm going to do it. All right, so we have our nav area. Let's we'll style up just the nav area first, so just these top things, and then we'll do the background image, and we might just add the background image now. So we'll do the background image so that it's got the black backdrop, and then we'll style up our logo and the nav, and then we'll come down and do this. So let's go to our CSS. And in our CSS, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say all unordered list items. I don't want those bullet points because we already have them here if we look. So we're just going to get rid of those. We'll say list style none. Okay. And then for all of our anchor tags by default, whenever we have anchor tags in the future, I'm going to say text decoration none. So we'll get those two styles out of the way while we're here. And then we'll go down here and we're going to select the header. So we'll say header. And the first thing we'll do is we'll add our background image. So I'm going to say background because it's going to be the whole header that has it. So we'll just say background. And the first thing I'm going to do is called a linear gradient. I'm going to put like a black overlay on our image so that we can make it not so bright, because if we just do the background image without it, it's going to be too bright. So let me show you what I mean. We'll do URL, image, Netflix BG save, and then see how it's going to be too bright. We want it to be not as bright. So I'm going to bake in something called a linear gradient that's going to put like a little overlay of black over it to dim it. And this is a really cool little trick that I'm about to teach you. So what I'm about to teach you can use anytime you use a background image, and it's still a very common design practice today to have a big showcase area where you have a background image and then like a call to action for a sign up or something. So if you want to know how to make your images less bright so that your text shows up better, this is how you do it with CSS. So pay attention. This is one of those code snippets that you can save from me and use for the rest of your career to just copy paste it and add your image in and adjust it whenever you want. So we're going to say linear gradient, and then I'm going to say RGBA, and then we're going to do 20, 20, 20, and then 0.7. And then after the first parentheses, we're going to put a comma, space, and then we're going to do the same thing. RGBA, parentheses again, and then we're going to say 20, 20, 20, 0.7. And then we're going to have, after the two parentheses, put another comma and save. And see how that made it dark? Now you can adjust how light or dark you want by adjusting what's called the alpha. So there's the three colors, red, green, blue, that make up, what color it's going to be. In this case, it's 20, 20, 20. It's going to make it black. And then your alpha, this last 0.7 one, pretty much controls the brightness. So if we make it 0.9 instead of 0.7 and save, it'll make it a little bit darker. Okay? So if we go 0.5 and then 0.5 again, save, it'll make it brighter. So that's how you adjust it. The higher the number, the darker it'll be. So let's keep ours at 0.7. I think that's a good place to keep it. So we can still see the image, but it's dimmed out, and then we can see everything really clearly, our logo and the text and everything. So again, that was a gem I just gave you guys. Save this snippet of code somewhere, copy it down, put it in your GitHub, and you can read. This is a great little snippet of code, a nice little cheat code to make images look how you want for background images. Next, we want to make sure that the background image doesn't repeat like they do by default. So we'll say background repeat, no repeat. And then we're going to say background position, and we're going to say center. And then we're going to say background size. We're going to say cover. Okay, so that makes it like take up the full space and make it centered and everything. So now it's looking better. As we make more styles, we're going to change the height of this section. It'll look better and better. But for now, that's pretty good. The next thing I want to change right now is our nav logo, because it's like super too big and it's breaking our whole page. So that's annoying me, so I'm going to fix that now. So I'm going to select our nav logo class for the logo in our navigation bar. Say .nav logo. Always copy and paste your class names and IDs, guys, so that you can avoid typos and stuff works. And I'm going to make this width of 200 pixels for the nav logo, and that'll bring it down, and that's pretty close to what Netflix has as theirs. If we make it bigger. Okay. At least on desktop, right? So we'll do 200. And then I'm going to give the header, I'm going to go back up to the header really quick. We're just going to give this a desktop height of 900 pixels, so it comes down like that. That's as big as I want it, or as tall as I want it. And then we'll say padding top of 1 rem, so that our navigation has some breathing room up here. Next, we need to flex our drop down, our sign in button, and our logo so they're on the opposite sides of each other. So we'll select our main nav menu class, copy that, and we will, we'll go down here. I try to put my CSS styles in the order that stuff appears on the page. So we'll say display, flex, align items center, justify content, space between. So I think I grabbed the wrong class here because this is supposed to be over here. So let's grab I want the main nav class, not the main nav menu class, at least not yet. Paste that there, boom. Okay, so now these two are over here. This one's over, the logo's over here where it should be. We're good to go there. And then let's move our nav logo down here. And then let's grab our nav menu now. Or our main nav menu. Copy that. And then again, we're going to say display flex, align items center. So now these two are going to go side by side. Okay. And then we'll give them some padding left and right. We'll say column gap, which is for flex items, it's padding left and right. We'll say 1 rem. 1 rem equals 16 pixels. So we're pretty much saying padding left and right of 16 pixels. So now we can't see them well. We're going to style them up now, but they've got some space there, and the logo's over here. So you can see our nav starting to take shape. We're getting there, or at least our logo area and everything. Next, I'm going to select, we're going to style up our little language selector here. So we're going to grab our language selector wrapper. Let's copy that. Say dot language selector wrapper. And what we're going to do is we're going to say position. We're going to put it as relative, and then we're going to have it display as inline block so that we can style it up. We need to put inline blocks so that our styles actually take hold here, and you'll see what I mean in a second. So now we're going to copy this, guys, and this is going to get a little complicated, probably something that you might have never used before, but we're going to have language selector wrapper, and we're going to use the after pseudo selector, so we're going to do : after. And this is the kind of stuff that we have to do to kind of get like custom styles on the select thing, because look how theirs looks like that. And they might have just made this like a div and done it a whole different way, but we're making it like a form and actually how it syntactically should be. We're going to say content, the content property, we're going to do, and I want to put my own little custom down arrow in here. So to do that, there's if you're on Mac like me, you can hold Control Command Space and just type in triangle in the emoji selector, and we can just, because see how theirs is kind of like different. That's like a custom looking triangle thing. So I'm not exactly sure which one they used or how they did that. They probably have their own little font icon that they put in there. But for me, I'm going to say content on Mac. I'm going to say Control Command Space. I'm going to search for triangle, and then see all these triangles that show up. I'm just going to select probably this one. Looks the most like the one they use. Yeah. And save. And it's not in here yet, but it's over here. You just can't see it because it's dark. But it's right here. Okay? So alternatively, if you're on Windows, you want to get a triangle like that, you should be able to hold the Alt key, ALT, and type in 31, the number 31, and it should give you a triangle or something like that. Or I'm sure there's a way to also get emojis on Windows. Guys, figure that out and just get a triangle in there for your content if you want to have like a custom little triangle thing, okay? And ours is there. I can barely see it, but it's right there. We still have to add styles to get it from outside the box to inside here, which we're going to keep doing now. So then we're going to say position, absolute. We're going to say right, 15 pixels. So now see how it's our little other triangles actually in the box here. So we're going to say right, 15 pixels, top, 50%. And then we're going to say transform, translate. We're going to say translate Y. We're going to say minus 50%, and this is just getting it like positioned where we want it. That's what all this stuff is doing, okay? And then we're going to say pointer events. There's going to be none. We're going to say color. It's going to be white. And then we'll give it a font size. Control how big it is. We'll just say 12 pixels for now, okay? So that's there, even though we can't see it because we had to make it white, so just bear with me. Now let's select our just the language selector, so just dot language selector itself. So it should be this one. And now we'll add some styles to this. So we'll say dot language selector, and we're going to say background color black. Okay, now it's black and we can actually see our little thing, and it hides the one by default because the other one's by default is black. So now it kind of hides it, which is nice. And then we're going to say color white. Okay. And then we're going to say width 150 pixels, make it a little bit bigger. So now we're actually adding styles to it here. Say height 40 pixels. We're going to give it some padding. So we'll say padding. We're going to say zero top, 1.5 rem, or about 20 pixels, 24 pixels to the right. 0 bottom and 0.75 rem to the left. So there's a little bit of padding there, mostly on the just on the right. We're going to say outline none. We're going to say appearance none. Whoops. Okay, so that gets sort of like the default arrow. Now we just have our little custom arrow. And then we'll say border 1 pixel solid and white. So we get our clearly defined border. We're going to say, let's see, is this, I think it has rounded corners. Yeah. So there's some rounded corners here. So we'll give it some border radius. So we'll say border radius, just 4 pixels, little subtle rounded corners there. Okay, so now it's looking a little bit better. We're going to give it font size of 16 pixels, a little bit bigger. And then we're going to give it some opacity of opacity 0.7. Okay, because theirs is like it's like a little faded. I mean, I guess we don't have to give it an opacity. Yeah, we'll just keep it normal. We'll keep it white. But we might want to make our font a little bit bigger, maybe 18 pixels. There we go. Okay, so, and I know that there's like another little icon in here, but to save this from being like too complicated, this was already complicated enough code for you to learn. We're just going to leave the icon out, okay? I was just going to say English Espanol drop down, which is good enough, and that's fine. And I need you guys to understand that it's like, and it's not that I can't do it, guys. I want to keep this beginner friendly, but maybe if you're a beginner, like you wouldn't even know where to start to get that icon in there. And that's totally fine, guys. If you're cloning big professional websites and you're like a newbie, if stuff, is going to give you a headache and like trip you up for days, like it's not worth it. Just move on. You don't have to get everything perfect. Just move on. Get the basics of the page and the design and move on. You don't have to, you don't work for Netflix. We don't expect you as a junior developer to get everything dead on. So don't worry about it. You just got to do what you can do and move on. Okay. It's a big thing in web development. Keep moving, keep making progress. And another thing, guys, just to keep your confidence up, all of this stuff I don't memorize. I had to look up how to do all this stuff. I used websites and I used the help of AI to get this stuff done. This is stuff that you do not, all this like after and all this crap, you do not memorize this stuff. You learn stuff as you need it, you execute it, and then you forget it until you need it again if you ever need it again. Okay, so web development and coding is not about memorizing code. None of us memorize code, even us YouTubers who look like we're geniuses. We don't. We learn stuff as we need it, and then we just continue on. We know our basics and our fundamentals, and then we know how to find the answers from there, and that's it. That's all you need. Okay. Another thing that I want to, make sure that you understand. This is not a memorization business that you're trying to learn. All right. So let's do our sign in button now. It's just this red sign in button. So let's grab the class for that. So sign in BTN, copy that. So we'll say dot sign in BTN, and we'll give it a background color of, it's going to be a red. It's going to be what I'll call Netflix red. It's going to be E50815. Okay. And then we're going to give it a color of white. Whoops. And then we're going to give it some padding. So we're going to say padding 0.6 rem, which is the same as saying like 9 or 10 pixels top and bottom. And then we'll say 1.5 rem left and right. And that's like 24 pixels left and right. And then that gives us makes it kind of look more blocky, our link. And then again, we're going to give it some border radius because it's rounded corners. So we're going to say border radius 8 pixels. Okay. Let's look at the real one. Yeah, it's about say 8 pixels. Maybe we can just do 4 pixels again. Yeah, maybe about 4 pixels, so that's fine. And then we'll say font weight bold, and then we're going to say cursor pointer. We'll say font size 16 pixels. And then this has a little hover effect on the real Netflix where it gets a little bit darker if you hover over it, so we can add that ourselves as well. So to do that, we're going to add a transition. So we'll say transition. I'm just going to say all 0.1 seconds. Ease in. And then let's copy sign in button class. And then we'll put the hover pseudo selector on it. And then when we hover over it, we're just going to use that same thing that we used before for our background image opacity. We're going to set it to 0.8 to make it get a little bit darker when we hover over it. So just like that. See how that works? Opacity is awesome. Okay. So pretty much identical to the other one. And then let's go ahead now. So this is basically what our desktop version of this top nav area is going to be, which is cool. And it looks good. And it's functional. So now let's make this mobile responsive, because it's going to be fine on most screens, but I know that when we get down to like smaller iPhones and stuff, it's going to be scrunched up and too big. So we got to fix that. So we're going to go make some media queries. So let's go copy this comment here. And we're going to paste it down here. I'm going to say media queries. So this is where basically all of our mobile styles are going to live. And the first media query I'm going to make is going to be for screens that are 767 pixels and less. So we're going to say at media screen and parentheses, we'll say max width 767 pixels. And then the first thing I'm going to do is make the height of the header a little bit smaller because it doesn't need to be quite so long. So we'll say height 650 pixels. So let's select our header first. So we'll say header. And we're just going to change the height and we'll put it at 650 pixels. And then we're going to make our nav logo smaller so it doesn't take up as much space and scrunch everything up. So we'll say nav logo. We're going to say width is going to go to 90 pixels. So it's like a 100 pixel difference. And then we're also going to change our language selector. So we'll say .language selector. That's going to have a width of just 100 pixels. So much smaller. There we go. And now our sign in button fits. We are going to make our sign in button a little bit smaller though. So we'll say .sign in -btn. And we're going to say padding. And it's just going to be slightly smaller. We're going to say 0.4 rem top and bottom, 1.2 rem left and right. Okay. And then that's going to cover us for like most smartphones today and their screen sizes. But if we get smaller to 320 pixel screen sizes, there is a couple phones out there on the market that have like really small screen sizes. We have to make stuff even smaller for those ones. So let's copy our media query. And we'll go down here. And we're going to say max width 350 pixels and lower. And then we're going to modify our nav logo sign in button. So let's make it, we're going to just make everything a little bit smaller. So nav logo is going to go down to 70 pixels. That already pretty much fixes a lot. Our language selector can be 90 pixels, a little bit smaller. Oh, I guess it can't be. It has to be. Yeah, we'll keep it at 100 because it's going to cut it off. So it has to be 100. So let's just delete that. We're going to just inherit those styles. The sign-in button can be 0.3 rem and 1 rem just to save some more pixels. Make sure everything always stays good. So that's for super small phones. Then, of course, if we go back to landscape, everything will be good too. So that's the mobile styles that we need just for this top area. And we already have our background image here. So that's good to go for like the top nav area. All right, guys, so now let's finish up our little header showcase area. We did our navigation. Now we're going to do like the content area with the text and the email sign up. So let's go below our nav tag. And we're going to do, we're going to give it a div right here. We'll put a div and we're going to call it header dash showcase dash text dash container. Yes, I know my class names are long, but again, you guys know I like to be organized. I like my class names to tell me exactly what the hell something's doing so I don't have to guess, right? So it's the container for the header showcase text, right? Obvious. Now we're going to do an H1 here, and it's going to be the only H1 on the page, so I'm actually not going to give that one a class. You should know that, there's only supposed to be one H1 per web page, so in the H1, though, we're going to do the big heading here, unlimited movies, TV shows, and more. So I'm just going to copy that right from the page and paste it in here. And then below here, we have kind of like two paragraphs. So I've got this paragraph and this one. So I'm going to say P, and I'm going to give it a class of showcase -P. And this one's going to say starts at $7.99, cancel anytime. So copy that. And then we can actually just copy this paragraph down. I'm going to have them have the same class. And then this is going to say ready to watch, enter your email to create and to create or restart your membership. I like how they have restart in there because they know everybody's canceled Netflix at least 5 times because they've gotten mad for pricing or just bad content. That's pretty funny. All right. So where's our stuff? Our stuff is up here in black. We can barely see it, but it's there. So let's do our form really quick. Just an input box and a get started button that goes right below the text. So what we can do is we'll stay in our header showcase text container. We'll stay right in there and we'll just put our form within that container. So we'll say form. And we'll give it a class of email-cta-form. Get rid of the action. And then in our form tags, we're going to have an input, and the type is going to be email. And then let's give it a class of email dash input. And then it's going to have a placeholder of email address. Just like the real Netflix. And then we're going to make this required. So for this, we're not going to do JavaScript form validation. We're just going to use HTML built-in form validation so that they'll get those error messages if they don't enter in an email or the correct email, and that'll just be generated by HTML for this project. I have a ton of other projects where I go over and we do the actual JavaScript form validation. If you want to check out my Microsoft clone, my Airbnb clone, there's a couple other websites that I have where I do that, like front-end mentor challenges. It is on the channel if you want to go check that out. And then see below here, below our input, we're going to have a button, and I'm going to give that a class of, we'll just say get-started-btn. And this is going to be a submit button. So we'll say type submit because it's meant to submit a form. Put get started in here. Save. So this is what we have so far. Okay, so it's our unstyled form. And then we have to put this little chevron right icon in here. So let's grab that. So I'm going to go to Font Awesome. Remember, we got Font Awesome earlier in the project. We brought over like the Font Awesome code so that we can connect to it. And that little arrow over is called a chevron. So I'm going to say chevron. And we want chevron right. So it's going to be right here. I'm just going to copy this little icon code. And we're going to put it right in the button after get started. And then you can see it's right there. Okay. So now we have our HTML for this area. Now let's style it up with CSS so that it looks like this. Nice and white and pretty and, bring it down from the nav and all that good stuff. So first things first, let's grab our header showcase text container. Copy that, and we're going to go back up here, and we're still in our header navigation showcase code area, so let's just scroll down right above media queries. Say header showcase text container. And for this, we're going to say text align center. And then we're going to give this a width of just 47% so that it all of this text stacks on each other like we want it to. So see how it's stacking now? See that? That's how you do it. You do that with width. And then we're going to say margin. We're going to say 8 rem from the top. Right is going to be auto. We're going to say 0 rem bottom and auto on the left. Save, and that'll center it. Okay, so it's bringing everything in the center and down now. And then we can also make everything color white because the text is going to be white. So we'll just do that. And then let's go down. Let's do our H1 next. And that's going to be a font size. And again, our font sizes and everything is not going to be identical to Netflix because we're using a different font kind of. So like it's not going to match up perfectly with Netflix, but we're going to try our best, okay? So we're going to say font size, and I'm going to make that 55 pixels for the H1, so pretty big. And then we're going to do, and this is a smaller screen size. We're going to use media queries to not make it so big, but just so you can see, this is what it currently looks like, okay? So we're getting there. We're going to say font weight of 800, so pretty bold. And then we're going to say margin bottom of 0.5 rem to give it some breathing room from the paragraphs down there. Let's grab our showcase P class for a little showcase paragraph text underneath it. And for that, we're going to say font size 24 pixels. And then I need since they both have the same class, I need some way to differentiate or give some margin to this second paragraph so that it gets away from the subheading and the header here. So I'm going to make a utility class called .mt margin top 2, and it's going to have a margin top built in of 2 rem. Okay, so check out how I'm doing this. This is how frameworks like Bootstrap are made. It's just a bunch of utility classes like this, and then you memorize them over time and you build stuff really fast. So there's mt2. Now I'm going to put mt2 onto my second paragraph, so mt-2. And then before I save, I want you to see what's going to happen. So I'm going to save, and now look at that. We got our margin top. Okay, might be too much. Is that? We could probably say mt1 and just make it like 1 rem. I don't want too much space in between there. Maybe 1.5 because like 2 is just a little too much. Then we'll do, let's see, mt1. There we go. All right, so final answer, mt1. So that's how you make a little utility class to help you out whenever you need. All right, and then we got to do the form next. So let's grab our email CTA form class. We'll say .email CTA form. And we're going to say margin top 1.5 rem. I'm going to say display flex, align item center, justify content center, and column gap of 10 pixels. So it just ensures that these are always side by side no matter what, right? And now we're going to do our email input. So let's grab our email input class, say .email input. And I'm going to say it has a width of 500 pixels, a height of 70 pixels, and we can even make it a little bit. Let's do 60. You try to get as close as you can, but again, we don't have the design file, so we'll do height 60. We'll say background color is going to be black. We're going to give it a border of 1 pixel, solid and white. We'll say padding all around of 1 rem inside the container so that it got some breathing room there. We'll say outline none to get rid of that blue outline when we click on it. Okay, so that's gone. Now we have to do color of white so that our text will show up when we type. There we go. And I'm going to give this a border radius of 8 pixels around the corners. And then font size of 21 pixels. And then I'm going to give this an opacity of 0.7 just to make it a little bit, because the real one has like a little see-through property. See how you can see right through the input box and all that? So now ours has that too. All right. And then we got to do the button next to it now. So let's grab the get started btn. So we'll go below our input. We'll say dot get started btn. I'm going to give it a background color of that same Netflix red. I'm going to say border none, border radius of 8 pixels, a width of 260 pixels, and a height of 70, or no, we got to match the height of our input field. So we'll say 60 pixels. So they have the same height. We're going to say font size 28 pixels for the text. Say color white. Let's go up here and do a font weight. So it's bold. We'll say font weight 800. And then we're going to say cursor pointer. And then we can make this text bigger. Say 32 pixels. Oh, my bad. We have font weight twice. I'm like, why isn't that changing? Okay, 32 is way too big. 28 pixels. And again, we got to keep in mind, we're building the desktop right now, so that's what it looks like, okay? And then we can actually change that column gap to like 5 pixels because the button and the input on the real Netflix are like super close together. It's not a lot of gap there. Let's do... Well, you know, we could actually do this in real time. Let me show you something. We're going to right-click Inspect, get into desktop mode, select our selector, select our container for these two that's flexed, and then we should be able to grab the, let's see right here, should be able to see the column gap. See, form. Oh, this is Netflix.com. My bad. Look, I'm getting confused. That's a good sign, like I said. Oh, you know what? I mean, that gap's not too bad. We could make it a little shorter. Let's right-click and inspect. Selector, select our container for these two. Here's our column gap. And then we can just select it there and go arrow up or down and watch it'll change in real time. So we can make them closer, like 5 pixels. How's that look? And it's not that close. Maybe 10 was good. Maybe more like 8. This is just if you want to get like pixel perfect, which I don't want to do, but I do want to show you that you can easily adjust stuff in real time without guessing with your developer tools. We'll make it 8 pixels, but that's a kind of a cool trick that, and once as you get better and better, you'll be doing that a lot when you're making stuff like little tweaks to stuff. So say column gap 8 pixels. Let's see, the get started button for them has that same opacity as our sign in button at top. It gets a little bit darker, so we can literally just copy our transition for that. Oh, my bad, guys. I just realized I've been putting all of this code up here in my global stuff. You probably caught that before me. So let's just cut that, put it down here after the showcase P. Sorry, guys. All right. So we'll say transition all 0.1 second, ease in, copy this, do our hover, and then same thing, we'll say opacity 0.8, or no, we say 0.7, nope, 0.8. So now when we hover over it, we'll get that dark effect. Let's look at it on the screen we're developing it for, okay? And then at the bottom here, I want you to notice I did something different. So they have this little like, I don't know. This bottom part here where it has like the curve and then red and then it fades into a new red. I'm pretty positive that they would have made this a all part of the background image. They would have had like a whole like it included on this part of it if they were smart. This background image, and then this is actually also part of the background image, the curve and the little, I don't know, like light box shadowing, blue box shadowing that they have down here. That's probably all part of the background image, so we're not going to have a way to totally replicate that. So what I've opted to do is we're just going to put like a little red divider line to show that like that's the end of the showcase area, just to keep things simple and beginner friendly. Of course, if I wanted to put an hour or two into replicating this, somehow I could figure it out. But I want this to be easy enough for you guys to just follow along in code without doing a bunch of crazy stuff. So we're just going to do a red like divider line. So I'll show you what I mean by that if you're confused, like what is he talking about. So we're going to go into our HTML and we're going to go below the header, and I'm just going to make a div with the class of red-divider. And then we're going to go here. Well, let's actually copy that class name. And I'm going to put it here. I'll say .red_divider. And this, again, it's just going to kind of, we'll put something here as opposed to just leaving it empty, just to kind of mimic that there's something here like on the real Netflix. So to do this, we're going to say, or give it a background color of that red. We're going to say height of 2 pixels. See, and then you can already see it. And then we'll just make sure it has a width of 100% at all times. And then that's it. We're just going to leave it like that. So, okay, just a little red divider. Okay. Now we can mess with like the widths. So like we should probably, I want to make this width bigger so that our header looks like it should, because it should be unlimited movies, TV shows, and more should be on the next line, and it's not here. So we can do that by manipulating our width on desktop. So we could change, let's see, where's our container? Header showcase text. So we can make this 50% instead of 47. Or we probably want to make it. So let's do this. We'll right click and inspect. Use our selector tool, select the whole container like that. And then we'll play with the width using our arrow keys. Should be like 42%. Let's do 42% for that. So let's change that in our code. So right here, 42. And then we'll tweak it for all of our other screen sizes, because that's going to probably mess up how it looks like on laptops and smaller screens, smaller desktops, but we'll fix that as we go. All right, so now let's make this mobile responsive here. So let's go to our media queries. And I'm going to make we're going to make several more media queries now to make everything look good on all screen sizes. So I'm just going to copy that first media query syntax there, make curly braces. And my biggest one that we're going to have is 1500 pixels and below. So this is going to cover basically super big, or not super big, but basically laptop screen sizes. So when you get, most laptop screens are like 14, 13, 15 inches. And that's what this 1500 pixels is going to cover. So what we'll do is I need to tweak the width for this. So I'm just going to drag this over. I have a MacBook Pro that's powering this whole thing. I'm just going to see how the width looks on here. And that 42% still looks good. So I'm actually going to keep that at 42 for there. That looks fine. So bring this back up here. And that's the nice thing about, I have like a 3-screen setup with my laptop. I have like a 13-inch MacBook Pro or whatever it is. And I can just really quickly test what it looks like on laptops by just dragging over to the other screen, right? But what we can check is how it looks. So let's right click and inspect. And I'll check how it looks on like wide, big. So right click inspect. I'm going to click my mobile icon down here so we can look at mobile devices. And I like to start with the iPad Pro and work my way down. So I go iPad Pro 1366 pixels. So that's like the landscape mode of iPad Pro compared to how ours would look on iPad Pro. So there we go. So we need to fix this and that, the width. So let's fix our width on iPad Pro. So let's leave 1500. I'm going to copy this down, and I'm going to say, since this is 1366 max width, pixels, I'm going to make the max width 1367. So 1 pixel above. So all these styles will still affect that. And let's play with the width again. So I am going to do my selector, and I'm going to do my header showcase text container, and then the width. I need to make this a little bit bigger. There we go. So let's pump that up to 46% on our header showcase text container, the width, so that everything looks good again. And we might, let's see, how big can we make it? TV shows and more. Oh, it's actually supposed to be that. So we pump this up to like 50? Let's do 50%. So go up here. I just want to copy this class down. Header showcase text containers. Copy it all. 1367. Bump this up to 50%. And then everything else will be the same, I believe. Yeah, we'll keep everything else the same. So just delete these styles. They're going to inherit from the top, so we don't need them twice. And then we'll just comment that out for now. We don't need it right now. Missing a curly brace. There we go. So that looks pretty good. Maybe we can make the Get Started text a little bit smaller on our Get Started button. So let's grab our Get Started BTN code right here really quick, copy it down. And everything is good, but the font size, I'm going to knock that down a couple pixels to like 25. That's better. Maybe we can go 24. There we go, 24, final answer. So now we're just tweaking, guys. This is how you make stuff mobile. You get your breakpoint set, and then you just tweak. That's pretty good. Their font is like so much bolder than our H1, but I can't really replicate that because we don't have Netflix Sans, so we're just going to have to live with that. So let's see how this looks on the next breakpoint. It's going to be like the iPad Air one, which is about 1180 pixels, so in landscape mode. So that's theirs. Let's see what we got to tweak here. Go back to iPad Air, 1180. Not too bad. Maybe just tweak the width a little bit. Copy the syntax for our media query. Our next one's going to be 1180. This is how you get all your breakpoints, guys. You just go through device by device. I'm really good at it and fast at it now because I've been doing stuff like this for so long, but you know, it takes a while at first to get into your groove. So we need to do the width. And that should be like, I think 65% makes it look good. I have a little cheat sheet that I can look at, so that's better. TV shows and more. Yep. So we'll keep it 65% for that. We can make our Get Started button and our, let's grab Get Started button here. We can make that a little bit smaller. It's getting a little big for these smaller screens. So let's say font size 20 pixels and the width, I'm going to change the width to 200 pixels. Make it smaller. There we go. And then our next breakpoint that I always do is the 1024, which is like an iPad in landscape mode. So if we go to like iPad mini 1024, you can see how everything looks. And for this, we can make our header a little bit shorter because it's like 900 pixels. We can actually knock that down. So let's go to 1024. So let's copy this media query, paste that in there. This is going to be 1024 and smaller. And I'm going to say header, and we're just going to say height of 700 pixels. Okay, there we go. Don't need it quite, so we don't need to take up the whole screen. And then we can start making our showcase paragraph text a little bit smaller on these smaller screens as well. So let's just grab this and go down to 1024. And we'll say font size maybe 20 pixels. All right, so our next breakpoint that we're going to want to do is like iPhones if you turn them landscape pretty much. So if you go like landscape, or is it, which one? Oh yeah, so the iPhone 14 is like 932 pixels landscape. And I know that like most people don't view websites landscape mode on their phone anyway, but just in case they do, we want to make everything try to look decent. So our next breakpoint based on that is going to be 932 pixels. So let's copy this. And we'll do 932. And then we'll do, we want to change the width of this again, maybe even make stuff a little bit smaller. So we'll say, we'll do header showcase text container. We could probably go width 100% at this point. Yeah, maybe not. Like 90. Yeah, there we go. So we'll go 90% width on that. Everything else looks okay. And then if we go down to like 767, which is basically like mobile phones at this point, or like this BlackBerry Playbook. Next thing we need to do is see how far down our header showcase text container is now. We need to bring this up. It's too much margin down. Let's go grab this. go down to 767 right here. And we're not going to mess. So with the width, we might want to go 100% now. And then our margin, say margin 5 rem from the top, auto, 0 rem, auto. So that'll bring it up. That looks a lot better. And then let's knock our H1 text down a little bit. It's a little big now. So let's say H1 font size 40 pixels. That looks better. So we'll do 40. And then we can make the showcase paragraphs a little bit smaller. Copy this. This is the text below there, remember? So we'll do showcase P, and we'll say 16 pixels. And then here at the 767 and lower, I'm going to actually stack these on top of each other. So we got to grab our email CTA form right here where we flex them together. And we'll go down to 767. And we're going to say column gap 0 pixels, delete all of this. And we're going to say flex direction column because we want them to stack. And then instead of column gap, we're going to have a row gap of 8 pixels so that they're like that. And then let's do the width of our email input. We're going to change that to a percentage because we can't have it be, let's see, what did we make it? 500 pixels. We can't have it be 500 pixels. It's going to go ruin all the smartphone stuff. So let's say, paste this here. And all this is going to remain the same, but we're going to say width. Let's do 100%. See how that looks. And then that'll be good because it will never go off. It'll just be 100% of whatever the container is. And then the get started button, can fix the width on that now. Copy this. Go here. We'll say get started button. Say width. We'll change this to a percentage as well. We'll say 50%. Okay. And then I'll keep the font size at 20. That's fine. Probably just want to look at how everything looks on super small screens, or let's just check. Let's just go through some phones. Everything should look good now. Google Pixel. 6, 7, 8 iPhone. Let's check the really small screens like the iPhone 5. Even though nobody uses it, we just want to check the small screen here. So yeah, I mean, it works. It looks okay. Looks good to me. Good enough. Pixel 4. Maybe fix the margin on those though. So let's make another media query. Say max width 550 pixels and smaller. And I'm going to grab our showcase text container and fix the margin on that. Now it's too far down on some of these screens again. So let's do like 3 rem auto. Bring it up a little bit. That's better. Probably make the H1 a little bit smaller. So H1, H1 font size 35 pixels. That's better. Okay. And that's pretty much what the real Netflix looks like. Everything is stacked just like that. We're doing a pretty good job. This looks pretty good, guys. I think we're good to go as far as like making our whole mobile, our whole top area mobile and everything. Looks really good. So that should be it for our nav/showcase area. It's now fully, let's do the drag test. So big, huge, wide monitor that I'm on. Down. This would be like a regular monitor size, probably like right here. And then down, getting into tablets now. So this would be tablets. Going down into phones now. Now we're at phones. Okay, so looks pretty fluid, looks pretty good. I like it. So next we will move on to the area down here. So we have this little popcorn banner area. It's like kind of like an ad. So this will be a section on its own, kind of, and then we'll have trending now, and then all these will be their own little sections. And the rest of the stuff for this project is actually pretty easy. That was like the most intricate area. I mean, when we do our JavaScript and the frequently asked questions, that'll have a little bit more complexity to it, but not a lot. This is actually doing this functionality is actually pretty simple. So I would say you got through the hardest, most intricate part of the whole deal here. If you're done with this first part, it's pretty much smooth sailing from here on out. So the next area we have to do is like this, I call it like, it's kind of like a banner ad or like a popcorn ad. I don't know, I think we'll call it like popcorn banner ad, but it's just basically the popcorn image. And then we're going to flex it next to this little ad thing where it says, hey, $7.99, learn more. You click on it and whatever, probably takes you to like a page to choose your plan, right? So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go back to our HTML. And let's go below our little divider class that we just made. And I'm going to use a section tag. So we can actually, and everything, this is like the main content of the page. So if we want to be like semantic, we can wrap everything in a main tag, right? So we can say main, and then we're going to have all of our different sections here. So we'll say this will be our first section. So we're going to say section. I'm going to give it a class name of popcorn-add. And then we're going to use our container class again so that everything stays nice and neat. And then what we can do actually for our whole page, like the whole thing should have a background of black because everything is just black background. So we could actually just go to the body, make our lives easy, and just say background color black. And then save, and now everything will just be black as we go down. So that'll save us a lot of code writing black over and over again. All right, so then in our container class, we'll have a div with the class of popcorn banner container is what we'll call it. And then in there, so within this div, it's going to have both the little popcorn image and this part so that we can put them side by side. So I'll put another div. I'll just put the image in a div so that it's block and I know how it's going to behave. So I'm going to say dot popcorn image container, and then in there we'll put the image, and I'll give this, well actually let's go into our images and let's grab Netflix popcorn.png, and I'll give it a class of popcorn-img. And then doesn't really need alt text because this is pretty much just pure decoration. So I'm just going to delete the alt text. And then below our popcorn image container, we're going to put a container to hold the text and the button. So I'll make another div and I'll have a class of banner text container. Or actually, we'll call it banner content container because it's not going to be, this is like for the content and then the text will be inside it. So in there now we'll have, and we need to have another container within here. So this banner content container, so you guys can visualize what I'm doing, is I'm putting a box for all of this stuff to live in, and then this will be the text and this will be the button. So after we flex these side by side, we then have to flex the content within here side by side as well. So it's off to the opposite sides. So we have banner content container, and then we can do dot banner text container. And then I'm going to do an H2, and we're going to give this a class of banner header because this is pretty much like a header right here, this text. And then let's actually put that text in there. So the Netflix you love for just $7.99. So let's copy that text, paste it. And then below here we'll do a paragraph, and I'll give this a class of banner-p. And then get our most affordable ad-supported plan right here if you want to watch commercials nonstop. All right, and then so there's our text container. Here's our content container. So let's go below this div. And now we have to put the button that says learn more. So we'll say, we'll give this, we'll wrap it in another div. We'll say dot banner button container. Then we'll have button. And then this will have a type of button because it's just going to be a button that doesn't really do anything. It's going to have a class of learn more BTN. And then, of course, the text is just going to say learn more. Okay? So that's what we have so far. You're not going to be able to see anything because everything's black by default. But that's what we have so far. And that's all the HTML we need. We just need to style this up now. So let's go to our CSS. And we got to make another comment. So let's copy this comment down. This is our popcorn banner ad area. So put a comment right here. Say popcorn banner ad. So let's select our section of popcorn ad, the whole section. And we'll say dot, say margin top 5 rem. Move it down, and then we'll say give it a margin bottom of 3 rem. And then next we're going to grab the popcorn banner container. So let's see here. Make it smaller. Got popcorn banner container right here. Copy that. And for this we're going to say display flex. And then we're going to say align items center. And then we'll say column gap 10 pixels. Still can't see anything really, but our stuff is flexed now. At least the container and the image, not the content within here, but we'll get to there. So let's resize our popcorn image because it's way too big. So let's grab onto our popcorn IMG class. And we're going to say width 100 pixels. Okay. So it's like a lot closer to what it's supposed to be. It's pretty much dead on. Next, let's grab our banner content container. So right here, this is going to be the button. This has the button and the banner text in it. So we'll say dot banner content container. And let's say color white so we can see everything in there. There it is. And then we'll say display flex, align items center, justify content, space between. Background for this area has what's called a gradient, which means that it has multiple colors in there, and it starts out light or darker and gets to like a lighter purple. So it goes like blue to purple from side to side. So to make this gradient, I'm going to show you how I did it, but I'm not going to spend like a half an hour doing it and tweaking it. But here's what you do, guys. Whenever you see something with a gradient on it, use your snipping tool on PC, or your you can do Command 4 on Mac. Take a screenshot of the whole area like that, okay? And then what you do, or what I do, I mean, this is how I solve these problems, is I'll go to, I'll just type in HTML color detector, and then you'll get a website. I'm going to go to htmlcolorcodes.com. You'll get a website like this, or actually, I don't want to go to this one. I want to go to, what's my good one? This is my favorite one. So html-color-codes.info. I upload the screenshot that I just took, so it'll be saved on my desktop. Should be this one right here. We'll open it. Okay, so there's how I took. Now here, you can select the colors from the image, or you can just click in it, and it'll give you the color. So here's, it starts blue, 151A3F, and then we can make it go here, get this light purple, 221735, and then finally it ends up being 251733. So those are the 3 colors you need, right? And then what you do is you go to Google and you type in CSS gradient generator. It's called a gradient, right? And then you can go to cssgradient.io, and then you can copy and paste each color in here, and then see how it's already going left to right, just like we want it to. You just adjust this with all your colors in there that you want to get that gradient effect, okay? And then down here, it tells you what to copy and paste. So that's how I did it. I'm not going to spend a long time on it because I don't want this video to be 5 hours, but that's basically how you do it. That's how it's done. That's how you clone stuff, and that's how you get gradients when you're cloning websites. So I already have the code to do the gradient, and I don't memorize gradient code, so I would always use an online tool because I don't have time for memorizing how to write gradients from scratch like that. It's just not necessary. So I'm just going to copy and paste what I already have. See all this linear gradient code? Who wants to memorize that? But anyway, that's the gradient background. Now you can see I have it in here. Again, it's not going to be perfect, but it looks good enough. I'm going to make the width of the content in here. So I'm going to say width 90% to give everything, to make it, you know, pretty long, or to go like the max length of the available space. So go width 100%, and then we're going to give padding all around of 1.5 rem to give everything some breathing room. And now you can see it's like actually starting to look like what we need it to. We're getting there. And we might even want to just do like 1 rem padding because it's actually not that big. So we'll do 1 rem. And then I'm going to give a border radius on here of 15 pixels to round the corners up nice. So it looks pretty identical there. And it might even be more. It might be like 20 pixels because those corners look a little more rounded. Yeah, it's better. So we'll go with 20 pixels. And then, so now let's do the Learn More button. So let's grab Learn More BTN class. Copy that, paste it here. And we're going to say, give it a background color. And it's like kind of like this weird grayish color. It's hashtag 414359. And then we're going to say border none. We give it a width of 150 pixels and a height of 50 pixels. Give it a color of white. We'll give the font size 21 pixels. Okay. How are we looking? Getting there. Let's give let's see, there is a border. We need to give a border radius on here. So let's put that up here with border. We'll say border radius 8 pixels to round it. Go. And then we'll make the font a little bold. So we'll say font weight 600. And there we go. And now when we hover over this thing, it kind of like pops out at you and lights up a little bit. So we got to do that feature now. And it's not just this, it's like the whole popcorn image does too. So what we're gonna do to create that pop out effect is we gotta add some special styles here. So our popcorn banner container pretty much has this whole area of the image and this together. So we gotta add some styles to that. So it's gonna be, we're gonna add a transition. We're gonna say transition all 0.1 seconds ease in. We're going to copy this, go down here, and then we're going to put hover on it. And then we got to make it pop out. So to do that, we're going to use a property called transform, and then we're going to say scale 1.03, kind of, that'll help it like kind of lift off the screen. And then we're going to add some subtle box shadow to help it do that as well. So we're going to say box shadow 0, 8 pixels, 20 pixels. Then we're going to say RGBA. We're going to make it like dark. So we're going to say 0, 0, 0, and then 0.4. So very, very subtle box shadow. Okay. So now if we hover it, now it's popping out. See that? And now we got to tweak our background for this so it kind of lights up or appears to like light up. So that's going to be our banner content container. So you just copy this transition, that here, copy this class, bring it down. And then we'll add the hover pseudo selector on here. And then we're just going to slightly change the gradient. And again, I'm going to cheat. I showed you how I did it. I just like selected slightly lighter colors basically. So I'm just going to paste it in there. And then when we hover over it, it kind of lights up. So I just like lightened every color up with that tool that I showed you. I just like select a little bit lighter of a version. Or no, you know what I did is I think, yeah, to get the colors, I hovered over it. I did my little screenshot tool and I took a screenshot of it while I was hovered to get the lighter colors. And then I just did the same process to get that gradient. And then I just put those in for the hover effect so that it looks exactly like this. It lights it up. So that's how you do stuff like that, guys. And again, you just got to come up with your own solutions. I just literally came up with that on my own. So that's how I handled it. I'm sure there's, a million ways that you could have done this. All right, so I'm gonna leave. I like my font sizes here. I think that all looks good. So now we just got to make this mobile responsive. So what we're gonna do, guys, I'll show you how it looks like on the real Netflix website. Eventually we put stuff on top of each other, but that's not till smaller mobile phones. Pretty much on tablets or landscape sizes, like it just stays right as is. Okay. So what we'll do, and we can adjust stuff. We can make the image a little bit smaller and whatnot. We can do a few things to change stuff, but until it gets to mobile phones, nothing really much changes with this section. So what we'll do, knowing that, is I'm going to select, let's see, what do I want here? I'm just going to select the popcorn image and go down to like the 932 pixel area, which remember that's starting to get into like mobile phones and landscapes. And I'm just going to make the popcorn a little bit smaller on the smaller screen sizes. The popcorn image, I'm going to go down to like 85 pixels. Oh, just to show you what I did. Sorry, I'm getting confused. I'm on the real Netflix again. So we just made it a little bit smaller. We could even go down to like 70. All right. Yeah, so actually let's just kick it down to like 90, a little bit smaller. And then once we get down to like, let's see, how does it look on 600? Let's see, BlackBerry Playbook. Still looks, see it like this is still fine to me. So once it gets down below the 600 mark, so we'll go to our 550. We'll go to the 550 media query and we'll put all of our additional styles in there and start stacking stuff on top of each other. So let's go up here and we'll grab everything that I think we'll need. So let's just grab everything from here down and then we'll just delete what we don't need. So down to the button. So copy that, go down to the 550. Right here. Okay. So for the popcorn ad itself, everything can stay the same, but I am going to make this position relative because we'll be moving something. We'll be using position absolute to put the popcorn where we need it. And let's actually look at a screen that this is going to affect. So let's say like the iPhone 12 Pro, for example, where it's way too big right now. Okay, so position relative. For this, we're going to say column gap 0 because it's not going to be side by side anymore. Get rid of the transition code. We're going to say flex direction column so that they stack instead of going side by side like that. And then we're going to say align items flex start. So align items to the left like that, because that's where the popcorn is. Let's see. Popcorn's got to be here. So then we're putting it here for now, and then we're going to use position absolute to drop it down in there. So that's going to bring us down to, let's see, we can delete that. That's all going to stay the same, to our popcorn image. So for this, we're going to say position absolute. And then let's look at it while we're doing it. And then we're going to do top 30 pixels and left 36 pixels. Actually, we'll hold off on that because I want to get the other stuff where it needs to go. So let's just comment that out really quick, but we'll keep it all there. But we'll fix that in just a second. Let's go to banner content container. And we got to fix a bunch of, so let's just delete all this and just fix what we need. So I need to make this also flex direction column instead of side by side. Okay, that's good. And then I'm going to say justify content, flex start, knock the height to 250 pixels fixed height. I'm going to say margin 0 auto. I'm going to give a row gap of 1 rem, so top and bottom padding between learn more and the text. And then I'm going to do padding again. I'm going to say 2 rem top, 1.5 rem left, 1.5 rem bottom, and 1.5 rem left. And now delete this. We're not going to change anything with that. We are going to grab, let's see, our learn more button can stay, but we're going to grab the banner button container because that does need to change stuff. So our banner, it's just a div that the button, learn more button sits in basically. So we'll say dot banner button container, and I'm going to say width 100%, display flex, justify content, flex start. Save, and that should push the button over to the left. There we go. And then now we just got to move the popcorn down so it sits like right here. So let's get this back. And then this image that we have has a background. So I actually have a transparent background popcorn image that I made where I removed all background from it. And that's what we're going to use for the mobile area. If you look in your images, you should have a popcorn nobg.png. And I mean, you can use that for the whole design if you wanted to. I might just do that just to keep things simple instead of having to display an image none, display it block. So let's just go image. And then we can just say, where is it? Popcorn no BG, save. And then there it is. It doesn't have that black background and all that other stuff. And then we can tweak its positioning here if we just select the image and then just move it up and down. So let's move it from top. Let's put it like, let's see, how does it look? I think it's something like right there. Yeah, so it's top and then left a little bit more. It's like right there. Yeah. Not as much to the left though, so it's like that pretty much. So we can do top minus 45 pixels. We'll say top minus 45 pixels, left 29. Save. And then if we check it on other mobile screens, it should look good. It's just stay in that area. Yep. About the really small smartphones, the 5. Yep, so it looks good. Go back here, go side by side. Let's see, iPhone X. Yeah. iPhone 6, 7, 8 Plus. And again, I'm fine with it being like that. You guys can make, if you want to make those mobile styles kick in sooner. So just check it on different phones, make sure it looks good everywhere. Looking good to me. So there's our popcorn area all set, mobile responsive. So the next one that we're going to do, and I mean, we could just make the text a little bit smaller, I guess, for these other, let's see, let's do that. Let's just make this text a little smaller so it fits better in there. Starting at like 767 and smaller. That can be like a little tweak that we can do to make it look better. So I don't think we ever did it. So we got to select it. So let's go back to our media query. Let's say 767 and lower. Let's see, what did we name this? Banner P and banner header. So let's say banner header. Font size 22 pixels or something like that. Even smaller, say like 18. That's much better. Let's just keep it like that, and then I'll keep that text like that. That's fine. See how much better that looks? Let's see. Yeah. I'm digging it. That's better. Just make it smaller on the smaller phones. See, iPhone XR. Maybe this is too tall. What did we make that? 250 pixels? Maybe like 220. Shave 30 pixels off of it. It looks better. I think that's going to be my final answer. I don't want to spend an hour on this area. Probably could make it like 210. Just bring it up. And then move everything down. Let's see, padding 3 rem top. There we go. All right, final answer. Looks good enough for me. Passes the test. All right, guys, so next up we have our little trending now area where it just has some little movie titles, and then same thing, like when you hover over it, they kind of pop out at you a little bit, so we'll do that functionality. We are not going to do the JavaScript slider functionality because I'm going to save my JavaScript for the FAQ section like that because I think that's cooler anyway. So we're just going to, what we'll do on desktop is we'll have 6 movies across. We'll use grid. So we'll have 6 movies across. And then we'll go with 2 columns of 3 on smaller screens, and then just 3 columns of 2 on mobile devices. So this will be pretty easy. Hopefully you got the images from me, or you got the images yourself. I have all the Netflix. It's my Netflix movies 1 through 6 here, and I chose to do 6. There's 10 on the real Netflix, but I don't want to do 10 across and then have to do all these rows of top picks on smaller screens. I kept it as 6 because 6 fits pretty well on desktop, and then it's easier. It's nice even numbers. Then it's just 2 sets of 3 that looks good, and then 2, 2, and 2. So that's why I did it that way. So let's go ahead and start executing this. So this is our trending now section. So that's what we're going to call it. So let's go here into our HTML. I'm going to go down here a couple times, get some space so we can see each section clearly. And we're going to say section, and we're going to give that class of trending-now. And then in here, of course, we're going to use our container class. And then we're going to a lot of the sections coming up have like a header. So like this is trending now, more reasons to join, frequently asked questions, and so on. So I'm going to make a utility class just for all the section headers. So we'll do h2 and give it a class of section-header. And we'll use that. We're going to use that same h2 in class and all the other sections that we build. And then this one is trending now. And then we're going to have all of our movies in a little container that we use grid with. So we'll make another div below here, and I'm just going to call it movie. And I guess it's TV shows too, but whatever. I'm just going to call it movie container. And then we're just going to have each one. So we'll do an image, and then all of our images are going to have a class of Netflix-movie. And then for the alt text, you can just put Netflix movie, or you can put, whatever. If this was a real production website, you would put the actual title of movie or TV show in there, but do whatever you want there. For image, we're going to do image, go to my image folder, I'm going to do Netflix movie 1 and save, and it should be the Wednesday movie, or what is it? Oh, it's whatever this is. So when I first built this project, that was number 1, I guess. So it updates. I guess this updates dynamically or something. But this is my number 1. I don't know what this, some kind of anime thing. Kind of weird. I'm not a big anime guy, but whatever. So then all we're going to do is just copy all of the images down. So we're going to do 6, so we're going to do 5 more. So I'm just going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Save. Okay. We go. And then we're just going to go through and update each different image. So the second one needs to be Netflix movie 2. And then Netflix movie 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right, so now we got all the different titles. So when I first built this, Wednesday was number 3, and I guess it's number 1 now. So that's kind of cool. My kids love this K-pop Monster Hunters, whatever. They're so into that show, or that, I guess it's a movie. I don't know. All right, so we got that. That's like all the HTML we need for this area. Like I said, all these other sections coming up are super easy. So let's just go into our CSS now, and we'll start building our trending now, or adding our trending now CSS to make it look good. And we'll say trending now. Okay. So first thing we'll select is our trending now section class. So let's grab that. Say dot trending now. And I'm going to do padding, and we're going to say 3 rem top and bottom, 0 rem left and right. And we can actually we'll use margin instead of padding. And then just to give it some space from our popcorn banner. And then we can grab our movie container. So let's grab section header first. And this is going to be a global style because we use this class multiple times. So I'm going to put it up in my global styles. And we're going to give it a color of white. And then we'll give it a font size of 28 pixels. And then we'll say margin bottom 1 rem. And there we go. Okay, so that'll stay in global styles. We'll use that over and over for each section. There's 2 more sections that are going to use that class. And now let's select our movie container class. All right, so we're going to use display grid. Then we're going to use grid template columns, and we're going to say repeat 6 across 1 FR. So spread them across evenly, 6 across, take up the same amount of space. And now they're doing that. And we still got to modify their width and everything, but now you can see that's happening. And then we're going to say justify items center and align items center. And then we'll say each movie needs its own little styles. So we'll say Netflix movie, select that class, and we're going to say width 220 pixels. And then we'll say cursor pointer. And then we're going to use a transition. So we'll say transition all 0.1 second ease in. And then we're going to do Netflix movie hover. And it's going to be the same properties that we put on our popcorn ad to make it pop out. So I'll just copy and paste it. So it's going to be, let's see, this one, the transform scale and box shadow. So just paste that in there. And now if we look at our movies on desktop, is what they look like. And then they'll do the little pop out thing. Okay. We could add some more padding to the top of the movie part probably. So we could say padding top 1 rem. There we go. So there's our trending now area on desktop. And then all we have to do is make them display a different, screen widths differently. So let's just right click, inspect, and we'll look at, let's see, we'll start at Nest Hub Max, which is a fairly big tablet, but not super big. So starting at least 1280, let's see, how does this look on iPad Pro? iPad Pro 1360. Okay, so we'll start at iPad Pros. We're going to make them go 3 and 3. So I'm going to select my movie container code, go down to my media queries, and 1367 and on. We could either do that, or we could still have them go 6 across, but just make the movies smaller. So maybe we'll do that. Let's grab Netflix movie, because we could probably still get them 6 across here. The screen's still decently big. If we just say width 200 pixels for all of them, would that help? It does help a lot. So maybe even like 190. Let's do that. We'll say 190, keep those. And then we'll grab movie container, cut that out, and we'll say, let's see how this looks on 1180. iPad Air. Yeah, so 1180 is where we're going to start going 3 by 3. So let's paste this down here. And all we have to change is, we're going to say repeat 3, 1 FR. So it goes 2 columns of 3. That's better. And then let's see. Get rid of that. Rid of that. And then let's probably do row gap. We could say row gap 1 rem. Just give them some space top and bottom apart from each other. Something like that. And then we could probably increase the widths again. So let's grab Netflix movie and say, go down here, put them back to 2, because there's a lot of space that they could take up. Make them a little bit bigger there. Something like that. All right. And then as we get lower, we'll go 2 by 2. So probably, let's see, check 1024. They fit. They still fit 1024 really nicely. About 932, which will be iPhone 14 landscape. Okay. So probably 767. So let's check 768. Let's see, iPad mini. Do they still fit? They still fit. So probably, let's see how they look at 600 pixels. Yeah, it starts to break. Let's just do, let's do this. Did we make a 7? No, we didn't. Let's just make a media query for like, I don't know, 730 and above or something like that. We'll have them go 2x2. Let's just do that. And then grab our movie container. That there. Say repeat. 2 1FR. Okay. And then if you look at it now, we'll go 2x2 by 2. And then we can even change the width of the movies to 100% probably. That would be wise. So let's grab this. Back down here. Change it to a percentage so it fits all screens, no matter what the size. Okay. Pretty cool. And then we can check it on really small screens. Does 2x2 still work? It does. I like to keep it 2x2. I don't want to just go 1x1. 12 Pro. Yeah, it looks good. Looks very good. All right, so that's probably all we have to do for that area. Can do the drag test on it. So desktop, laptop probably, or like laptop right here. Get into tablets. Now we're into small tablets and landscape mobile, and then we're into mobile. So there's a trendy now, and then they have that little effect. So pretty easy. All right, moving on to the next area, and it's our more reasons to join. So again, this is going to be another super simple area. We can make one little box and then just copy it down 3 times and we'll probably use, we might use Grid again for that. Probably use Grid and just make it responsive. So you can see it starts out going across and it goes 2x2, then 1x1. Very easy. So we'll do that next. All right, guys, so let's move on to our, what do we got? More reasons to join section. So very similar to what we just did, okay? We're going to have a header. We're going to have some boxes with some content. We'll use Grid to change how they display on different screen sizes. So let's go down here. We'll make another section. And then this is going to be, we'll just call it the more reasons area. So we'll say more reasons, okay? And then we'll get our container class in here again to keep everything in line. And then we're going to use our section header, so we can just copy this right down here and paste it. And we'll put more reasons to join. So I'm just going to copy this text over, paste it right here, save some time. Okay, so there we are. Next, we're going to go below our H2, and we need a container to keep all 4 of the cards in so that we can use Grid or whatever we're going to use. So we're going to make a div with the class of reasons card container. Or we can say reasons cards container, whatever you want. Make it plural. There's more than one here. And then we'll do our card. So say dot reasons card. We're going to call each one of these a card. So 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So the first one we have, enjoy your TV, watch on smart TVs, PlayStation, Xbox. So we're going to make that an H3. And we're going to give it a class of reason header. So we'll say H3 dot reason header. And then we'll say enjoy your TV. Copy, paste that here. And then below it, we have a paragraph. So we'll say we'll give it a P tag, and we'll say reason dash P. copy and paste this content in here. Okay, so this is what we have so far. I can't see anything because it's all black, but content is getting there. And then we have to have this little TV or monitor. So we'll do below the paragraph, we'll say dot reason image container. We'll say image. And then we're going to use, I'm going to go to my image folder and we're going to do the Netflix TV.jpg. And we'll say Netflix TV icon. And then that's going to be it for like the card content. Let's style this card up. Well, actually, we could copy it down. Let's just copy it down 3 more times, all of the cards. So we have reasons card right here. So that's where it starts and ends. So we'll go 1, 2, 3. Okay. And then let's start adding our styles. So let's copy this media queries comment and we'll say reasons cards or more reasons to join. And for this, we're going to grab our section, our more reasons section. Say dot more reasons. I'm going to say padding, 3 rem top and bottom, 0 rem left and right. Give it some space. And then let's grab our reasons. Let's grab our reasons card first just so I can make the text white. So let's grab any reasons card. Say dot reasons card, color white. Okay, so we can at least see the content. And then let's give each card, so the cards again have that same type of like gradient, and I've already showed you how so it's basically the same as this gradient, but it's like reversed. So remember I already showed you guys how I got that. So you can get the gradient on your own using the tools and you know that I showed you, the gradient generator and the image thing where you can paste it and get the colors, or you can just go to my GitHub and just copy the gradient code if you want. Up to you. But I'm going to just copy and paste my gradient stuff that I already know. I've already done it. Just so we can see where the cards are, okay? So again, mine isn't, again, dead on perfect to Netflix, but it's close enough. And then each card has a border radius of about 12 pixels. So it makes them rounded, okay? And we'll just style the whole card. So we'll say padding, 2 rem for all the content inside, so it gets it off the corners. We're going to say in the card itself, we're going to say display grid. And then we're going to say grid template rows. And we're going to say auto 1FR auto. We're basically making all the rows like the same basic height by doing that, auto 1FR auto. And then we'll give each card a min height of 350 pixels, which will help keep them equal at all times on every screen. And then we'll give a gap of 0.5 rem top and bottom between each card. And we'll say width 100%. Okay. Now let's grab our reasons card container. So let's grab that. Say dot reasons card container. We're going to say display grid. We'll say grid template columns. Repeat for 1FR. We're going to say justify items, and I'm going to say stretch, which means take up all the space within the container. Say align items, stretch, same thing. So it's vertical and horizontal, basically like take up all the space necessary that you need. We're going to say column gap 1.3 rem, give them some spacing. And then we'll say padding top to bring them all down a little bit off of the header. Say padding, padding top 2 rem. All right.
Next, let's grab let's work on like the actual content within the cards. So the first thing that we have is our reason header. Let's grab that. Say dot reason header. I'm going to say for that, we're going to use a font size of 28 pixels. And it looks scrunched up here, guys. Remember, this is for desktop, so this is really what they look like, which is pretty close to the actual design. Ours are a little fatter because, again, our container's out a little bit more. Because honestly, I think it looks better if your container's out a little bit more. I don't like the designs when it's all super scrunched up in the middle like this. This is how all the websites used to be in like the early 2000s, like super centered. I mean, it doesn't look bad, but it's better. Everything can be bigger, more readable, take up, more necessary space if we just let it breathe out a little bit more, right? But whatever. You can, if you want, you can tweak the container and make it as big as you want. So let's do reason header 28 pixels. We'll say give it some padding bottom of 1 rem. The next we'll do the reason paragraph. So we'll say reason P. Copy that over here. And for that, we're going to say opacity 0.8 because if you look at the text, it's like a little bit see-through or light for the paragraph, so that's opacity. We'll do font size 19 pixels. And then we'll do margin bottom 0.5 rem. And then last, we're going to do our reason image container because each image has to be in the bottom right, aligned to bottom right. So that's where our reason image container is going to come in. So let's copy that. Say dot reason image container. For that, we'll use flex. We'll say display flex, align items center, and justify content flex end, which means to the far right. Save that, and then if we make this big, all of our icons will be nice in the corner here like they should be, okay? So let's update the content within each card now because it's not supposed to all be the same. So we got enjoy it on your TV for our first card. The next one is, what is it? Download your shows to watch offline. Add that here. Copy this. Paste that in there. And then we need the download image. So we'll go here. Say image. And we're going to do Netflix download. There we go. All right, download your shows, blah, blah, blah. So next, we're going to do watch everywhere. So it should go right here. So we'll say watch everywhere. We'll get this text, paste it in here. And then create profiles for kids. Go here. Copy this text. All right. And then our last image should be the profiles image. Oh, this one should actually be, what is it? Watch everywhere. Go image and probably watch. Yeah. Cool. All right, create profiles for kids. And then this will be the profiles image. I think that's what I named it. Let's see, Netflix. Profiles. Cool. See how that looks. Very good. So all that margin and padding and extra nonsense we added we had to add all that so all the titles, regardless of like height, all matched up. And we tried to make the content, like the titles and the paragraphs match up perfectly. We couldn't because this is so much text. But the real Netflix does the same thing. It doesn't really match up perfectly either. The paragraph is down here too. I personally think that's ugly, and I would have like left some words out of here just to make sure all the titles like match up perfectly side by side, but whatever. That's how they have it. That's how we have it, right? All right. What else? And I always got to make this responsive so that on screens it goes 2x2 and then single, just like the real Netflix. So if we, again, just do the test, 4, 4, 4, and then we hit like smaller tablets, goes like that, and then mobile, 100% width, stacked. So all we really need to do is modify our reasons cards container, I believe. So let's copy that. And I'm going to do this right after, this is where 1500. So I'm going to say on like laptops, on smaller screen laptops, we're going to do 2x2 with these cards. So let's paste that here. We're going to do 2 1FR. And then we'll say column gap 1 rem. We'll say row gap 1 rem. And then all this stuff is just going to stay the same, so we don't need to have it twice. Save. So if we check our cards now, boom. So here's what ours looks like now. Big monitor, regular monitor, and we get down to like laptop size. It'll do that just like the regular one. Okay, so theirs does it a little bit later than ours, but same thing. Okay, and then we need to make it stack. So probably like 767 and lower, we'll just stack them. Let's see. Let's use our media queries to tell us what to do. Or not our media queries, our Google developer tools. So let's see, how does this look like on an iPad mini at 1024? Looks pretty good. About 768. Yeah, it still works. So we'll go 767 and lower. We'll just make them 1FR, 100% across. So let's just go down here. 767. So let's just go down. Let's see, do we still have this? Just make sure we have this copied. We'll go down to 767. I mean, we could probably do 730 too. Let's just do 730. Why not? No, you know what? Let's just be safe. I'll say 767. Repeat 1FR. Column gap 0 rem, row gap 1. So that now if we go down to smaller phones, it'll just go all the way across. Pretty simple. Okay. And if we go like that, it'll still be that way. Let's see. Let's just make sure again on our really small screen phones we're good to go. We are. Very good. Pretty good, guys. So again, pretty easy little section. Happy with that. So again, we can do our test. Start on desktop. Down, down, down. Boom. Down, down, down. And mobile. Okay. So that's it for our more reasons to join section.
All right, so let's move on here. We have our FAQ, frequently asked questions section now. So very easy HTML and CSS. We're going to have a container, an icon, and a question. And then when you click on it, just a couple paragraphs in the same kind of container thing. So not too difficult. And then, of course, we'll be adding the JavaScript. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So let's go below our other section here, and we'll make our section with the class of FAQs. And then we'll have our container come in here. And then we'll add our section header. So let's copy that over. Copy that, paste it in here. And then it's going to say frequently asked questions. All right. See what we have here. So there it is. Getting there. And then below our section header, we'll start making the actual questions and answers. So this is just going to be the question, the FAQ part, right? So we'll have a container for that, and we'll just call it FAQ. And then we'll have the actual question. I'll put it in H3, and I'm going to give it the class of FAQ-question. And the first question is, what is Netflix? And then we have to have our little plus symbol over here, so that'll be an icon. So what I'll do, I'm going to make another div to how, because the icons are going to be inline by default. So we want them to be block elements so that we can just use flex and have the header go here and the icon go all the way to the right. So we're going to do a div, and I'm going to call this FAQ icon container. And then let's get our plus symbol. Let's go to Font Awesome. I don't think we've gone there. Oh yeah, we did go there once already, so we'll go there again. Should already have your Font Awesome connected if you watched the start of the video. So we're going to search for the plus icon, and that's what we need. We really need the plus large if we want it to look exactly like Netflix's, but that's a pro one, so we're just going to go with the free one. So let's just select this, and we'll go back, and we'll paste that in here. Okay, so let's see. So our content is down here, and we can't see it because it's all black, but we'll fix that. So what we'll also need, if you look at the design, when you click on the question, the plus icon also changes to an X. So we're going to put an X icon right below it, and then we'll use CSS and JavaScript to decide when to display the X and when to display the plus. So let's get an X icon. And we could literally just, like, instead of using an icon, we could just like make a little paragraph or whatever, just put an X in there, but we'll just get an icon. That's how I'm going to do it. So let's just search for X, and let's see, theirs is kind of shorter and fatter. I'd say it's the X mark here. So let's grab the X mark icon and just put that right below the other one. And we'll toggle which one is showing and not. All right, so we have our FAQ, we have our container. So let's go below the FAQ now, and we need to make our answer. So that's going to be another div, and that's just going to sit right below our FAQ, right? Just in its own little div box with the answer. So let's make another div. We'll call it FAQ answer container. And then let's wrap both of I'm going to have one or two paragraphs. That's the actual answer. I'm going to wrap that in another container. I'm going to say, just so we can control the padding and everything on both of them and position them, I'm going to call it FAQ text container. And then we'll have a paragraph with a class of FAQ-answer. So this will be like the actual answer text. And then this particular FAQ is going to have two separate paragraphs separated by some margin or padding. So the first one is this one: Netflix is a streaming service, blah, blah, blah. So we'll put that in there. And then we'll copy this paragraph down. And then we'll put the other paragraph text in here, which is you can watch as much as you want and all that. Save. Okay. So all of our content's here, we just can't really see it. And then let's style this up so we can actually see this FAQ and all of the content here. So I'm going to go to CSS. Let's make our FAQ section. So copy this comment, say FAQs. Oops. Okay. And then let's select our actual FAQ first. This right here. Say .faq. And we're going to give it a background color of hashtag 2D2D2D and save. That little grayish color that Netflix uses. And then we'll give all the text the color of white. And then you can see our icons now. We have both icons here as well. We'll do some padding for all the content in here. We'll say 2 rem top and bottom, 1.5 rem left and right. And then we'll separate the content. We'll say display flex, align items center, justify content, space between. Okay. So now that's where our heading should be there, and the icon should be over here. So we got that done. And then let's do our FAQ question, which is basically just our header, our H3 header. So let's copy this class over. Say FAQ question. And then I'm going to make the font size on our question 28 pixels. And the font weight just 400, so it's not super bold because that's how the Netflix questions are. And it might not even be like, we could probably knock that down to like 24 pixels. Let's see, or is that just on smaller screens? Yeah, that's on smaller screens. So we'll stick with 28 because the heading's pretty big on desktop. Or the question, I should say. And then interestingly enough, the question and the answer are like the same font size, it looks like. Or the answer might even be slightly bigger. So it's going to be like the same size, even though it's a paragraph. The font size will be like the same. So let's grab our FAQ answer container, which is, our actual answers in there. Let's copy that. .FAQ answer container. And then we'll just copy a lot of this, or at least these 3 styles, right on down. And then we're going to give a margin of 5 pixels top and bottom, 0 pixels left and right, so that there's a little separation between the containers. So that's what we have so far. That's our little margin that we just added, just a little bit of spacing, just like the Netflix one. And then let's move on. For now, that's all we're going to do for that one. We're going to add more styles in just a second, but not till we start our JavaScript. Let's actually size up our icons before we move on. So I'm going to grab my FA plus icon first. We got to make that bigger, obviously. So let's put that up here. So .FA plus, and you can control Font Awesome icon sizes customly by just using font size because they're just fonts. So we can say font size, and then we'll say 28 pixels. And that it's pretty big on Netflix. The plus symbols, they're pretty big. So you might want to even go up to like 40 pixels or something. Yeah, so we'll do 40. And then we'll do the same thing for the X mark, FA X mark. We'll say .FA X mark. Font size 40. All right, so we'll just go with that. And then we might, we'll modify the sizes for smaller screens and whatnot. And then by default, we actually want the FAX mark to display none. So let's say display none. And we'll make it display again with JavaScript because we don't want it there all the time. All right, so that gets rid of that. So now we're gonna add additional styles and everything. Well, actually, let's get our text, our font size for the answer before we do that. So let's grab FAQ answer really quick, which is just our answer, our paragraphs. And we'll put that right down here. And we'll say font size, 28 pixels. That's all we're gonna do for that right now. And then we want to make this like not visible by default. So we're going to add some additional styles to what we already have, and then we're going to add some classes that we're going to dynamically add with JavaScript to give us the functionality of when we click on it, it like comes down like that, the answer, and then disappears and the icon changes. So that's all going to be done with JavaScript now. So first, let's go to the FAQ answer container. And I'm going to give it some additional styles here that are kind of going to make it like disappear or not be visible right away. So the styles we're going to give it to is like, I'm essentially going to tuck it underneath this. And then when we use JavaScript, we'll like animate it slide down just like a regular FAQ. So let's go to the FAQ answer container, which has all of our answer text. Oh, one more thing, actually. We need to fix our paragraphs need to be spaced out. Sorry, guys. So let's do this. We'll say margin top 1 rem. It's like that. And it might, let's see, how spaced out are they? Might even be like 1.5 rem. So we'll do that. So then let's go back to our answer container now, and I'm going to do a couple styles. We're going to say min height 0, which it's going to help us get rid of it. Say opacity 0. So now it's kind of gone, right? Even though it's there, we don't see it. Say overflow hidden. and then we're going to say transform, and then we're going to use the transform property, and then we're going to say translate Y, and then we'll say minus 10 pixels, and then we're going to say we're going to put a transition on here, and this is all going to help us basically animate it down and appear with JavaScript, but we got to add these styles here. That's what we're doing right now. So we'll say max height, and we'll say 0.4 seconds, ease, and we'll say opacity. And this is gonna these styles are gonna make it like kind of appear when we add the rest of our JavaScript. So opacity 0.4 seconds, ease, and then we'll say transform 0.4 seconds, ease. See how that just happened when I saved? Watch that. Watch again. It's only going to be when I save, but watch again. It'll appear for a second. Boom. And then it fades away. Let's go below our answer. So now I'm going to make some dynamic classes that we're going to add just with JavaScript. So I'm going to have .faq.open. So there's going to be an open class that's going to be for FAQ. Then we're going to say plus .faq answer container. So we're going to have open and answer container, and then that class, when activated, is going to make it display the answer display block. So come back. We'll give it a max height of 1,000 pixels. Just to, what that kind of does is it future proofs any, if you have like a super long answer, since we have it at max height 1,000 pixels, like no matter how long the answer is, basically it'll fit nicely and it won't break whenever somebody has a really long answer and they hit this and it goes down. So it just kind of future proofs it. We're never going to have 1,000 pixel answer, but that's just, future proofing code right there. We'll say opacity 1 so that it appears, and you can see it's going to keep appearing every time we save. We'll say transform translate Y, and then we'll just put 0. So basically that's going to help slide it down a little even more, because we use transform translate Y minus 10. Now it's 0, so it's going from negative to slide down pretty much. It's like a slide animation, or it's helping us with that. And then we're going to say margin bottom 0.7 rem. And then we got to add some custom classes to decide what icon to display. So we're going to say .faq open .fa plus. So in other words, when it's opened, display the plus none. So when our FAQ open is put on dynamically with JavaScript, which will be in a second, display our plus none. Get rid of it. That's what that class is going to do. And then we're going to have FAQ open. So let's just copy this, because it's going to be FAQ open. And instead of FA plus, it's going to be FA X mark. And then that's going to be display inline block. So basically up here. Okay. So that's basically what a lot of JavaScript is, guys. I want you to understand. I know that people like to teach JavaScript like it's some sort of back-end or all-purpose language nowadays. It's really not. All it's meant to do is dynamically control stuff on the page, and 99% of the time you're going to be using it to add and remove classes from elements to just change how stuff behaves on the page when a user clicks on something or does some kind of what they call an event. That's really all JavaScript was meant for, and I want to stress that. If you're new and you're a junior developer, I really advise you to learn languages that are used for the purpose that they're made for. So use JavaScript just for really what it's supposed to be for front-end interactivity. And then if you want to learn back-end, I wouldn't recommend learning JavaScript for that. I would recommend using an actual back-end language. PHP was literally made for the web and back-end. That's why I teach it, and it's way easier to learn than trying to make JavaScript a back-end language and do a bunch of stuff that it wasn't supposed to do.
So try to keep each language in their lane, even though people try to overcomplicate stuff nowadays and use all languages for everything. It's not a good idea. So just remember that advice, okay? All right, so, and of course, there's a lot more questions that we have to make, but I just want to get one of these. I want to get it so that this is working correctly, and then we'll just copy paste our HTML and CSS and fill in the other questions and answers, okay? So let's go to our JavaScript now. We're just going to write not too much JavaScript. This isn't going to take very much JavaScript at all. So what we'll do here is we'll go to our JavaScript file. And the first thing I want to do is select my DOM element that I'll need. So if you don't know what the DOM is or what any of this is, guys, this isn't going to be a JavaScript lesson. If you want to learn all of that from scratch from me, check out, again, the Complete Web Developer course in the description. So we got to select our DOM element, and we're going to use const, and we're going to say FAQ items is what we'll call this variable. And we're going to put all of our FAQs in there. So we're going to say document dot, and we'll use query selector all because they're all going to have that class of FAQ. And we'll say dot FAQ. So basically select everything that we have with the FAQ class with JavaScript. And then selecting the FAQ itself. So the actual question itself is basically what we're selecting. And then we're going to use an event listener so that on click, it'll do what we want it to when the user clicks into that container. So let's go down here and we'll say event listeners. And we're going to use something called a for loop because since we're going to have multiple of these and we need to loop through each one of them, we need JavaScript to loop through is what it's called so that it knows which one we're clicking on basically and to do the behavior for all of them. So we're going to use something called a for loop. So I'm going to say for let I equals 0. And we'll say as long as I is less than FAQ items dot length I plus plus. And I plus plus means keep going until we got the one that we need. Like go through every single one of our FAQ items or which is just these guys. Just go through every one of our questions until you get to the one we need and then do the behavior we want. So then we'll say FAQ items. And then we're going to say I in our brackets dot add event listener. So basically we're adding an event listener onto every one of these. There's only one, but all of them are going to have the same functionality because we're using this for loop. And we're going to say dot add event listener, and we're going to listen for a click because that's the functionality in Netflix. Whenever you click anywhere in here, it doesn't have to be on the plus icon. That thing's coming down. So that's what we're going to make ours do. Anywhere in here at all in the question. Okay? So we're going to say click, and then we're going to say function. We're going to do an anonymous function. And then what we're going to do is we're going to run a custom function that we haven't written yet, but we're going to set it up now. We're going to say toggle FAQ, and then in parentheses, we're going to run FAQ items. So basically, FAQ items with our I, which means do what we want to do when we do something called toggle. Toggle in programming means like switch between, right? So this would be toggling. We're switching between open and close. That's toggling. So that's what we're going to name the function toggle FAQ. So we haven't made this function yet. If you know some JavaScript and you're like, what the heck? What is that? We haven't made it yet. We're going to make it in just a second, but that's what we're going to use to run. So again, this event listener is just saying, hey, loop through, run through all of our questions that have the class of FAQ, and then on click, run toggle FAQ. And toggle FAQ is going to be a function that we're going to make here in just a second, and it's going to have like everything appear and open, I should say. It's going to open each question, help the animations and everything go through and make everything kind of work. So let's do our toggle function now. So we'll just have our functions section. And then let's make our function now, our custom function. So function toggle FAQ. And then in our parentheses, we're going to pass what's called a parameter. And a parameter is just like a variable. It's just like a placeholder that you can use in functions. I'm going to call my parameter FAQL. And then we're going to make another variable in here within our function. We're going to say const answer, and answer is going to be equal to get answer container, and then we're going to put in our placeholder of FAQL. So FAQL is basically just it's a placeholder for our actual element here, okay? And get answer container, that's another function that we're going to make in just a second. This is a custom function, but answer is going to call it, okay? Or answer, sorry, it's not going to call it, but it's saved in this variable. So whenever I say answer now, it's referring to another function that we're going to make. Just one more. We're almost done. I know this seems really complicated, but if you know and learn the fundamentals of JavaScript, you're actually able to like read this code like plain English. If you're not there yet, don't worry. Just follow along with me. And, you know, obviously eventually take a JavaScript course, if not mine, somebody else's, and this will all make sense in time. But just keep going. We're almost done. So below there, we're going to use an if statement because now we have to make a decision. We have to have our code make a decision. We're going to say if, and we're going to say answer doesn't exist. So exclamation is the not operator. So basically, if our code can't find an answer to go with whatever question, if it doesn't exist, basically, for whatever reason, if somebody deleted it in the code or something, we're going to just say, we're going to do our curly braces. We're just going to say, use the return keyword. And return means this basically means if our answer doesn't exist, return. Return means kill the function, stop running the code. That's all return means. It just basically means stop. Okay? So, and we can even put a comment here. We can say, make sure we have a paired answer for whatever answer container is being clicked. Because they're basically pairs, right? Every question has an answer. So this code is basically just saying, hey man, if for some reason the user is clicking on one of these FAQs, but there's no answer div like below it in the HTML if it doesn't exist, like they forgot to put it, just don't do anything. That's what that code's saying. And then we're going to have another if statement that's going to actually open the FAQ as long as that does exist. So we'll say another comment, we're going to say toggle, or in parentheses we'll say, or quotes we'll say, open. Toggle means to open the FAQ element. So we're going to say if FAQL dot class list dot contains open. So basically, if they've clicked on it and we've added the class of open, do the following. We're going to say FAQL dot class list dot remove open. Okay, so what does that code mean? It means if this thing is already open, if we've already clicked on it and we've added the class list of open dynamically with JavaScript to make the FAQ pop out, and then somebody clicks it again, remove that class list so that it closes. That's all that means. And then we'll say else. If it doesn't have open, basically if it's closed already and somebody's clicking it for the first time, we're going to say FAQL dot class list dot add open. Okay. So now we have to write one more piece of code. We're going to write another function called getAnswerContainer because we have to basically help determine or help JavaScript know if there is an answer for whatever question that we're trying to click on. We have to check with JavaScript now that there's actually an answer attached to whatever question we're clicking. And then remember, if there's not, this if statement in this function right here is going to just stop running. So we have to run basically one more check function, one more little, safety or security measure to make sure that what's there needs to be there for it to work. We're going to say down here function. So, and then we'll put a comment up here. We'll say check if a question has an answer. So we'll say function toggle FAQ, and then we're going to again pass our FAQL parameter in here, just like we did on the other one. And then we're going to make another variable in here. We're going to say const sibling, because we're going to be checking for something called a sibling. So we're going to use the keyword sibling because in HTML, you would call like elements that are paired together, like our question and our answer, are just referred to as siblings. So for right here, for our FAQ answer container, so we have the FAQ answer container and the FAQ, and they would be siblings of each other. And the parent element that really has everything would be the FAQs section. This is their parent. And then since they're nested in here, they're both siblings. Does that kind of make sense? That's just how they call it in programming. I don't know, kind of weird, right? But that's how it is. So we got const sibling, and sibling is going to equal FAQ dot, and we're going to use a built-in JavaScript function called next. Whoops, sorry, I meant to put a dot here. Next element sibling. So sibling, our sibling variable is saving, it's basically saving an FAQL and looking for the answer. The next element sibling would be the answer. Okay. So now we're going to say if, and this is the last part of the JavaScript here. We're going to say if a sibling does not exist. Remember, exclamation point in programming means not. So if there's no sibling, and then we're going to use two pipes, shift, pipe, pipe. And a pipe should be, if you don't know where that is, hold shift. It's usually over your enter key. There should be like the pipe symbol. That's how you get pipes. Two pipes in programming means or. So we're saying if there's no sibling, or if sibling dot class list dot contains FAQ answer container, which it should if there is one there, because that's what we named it. But this, remember, the not says, so if there's no sibling, and then if you can't find a sibling or a div right below our question that has the answer container, if you can't find any of that, then we're going to use the return keyword, and we're just going to return null. Null just means nothing in programming. Return nothing, so basically do nothing, right? Otherwise, we'll say else return the sibling, like do your thing, show us what that answer is. That's what the sibling would be, the answer. All right, guys, and I just noticed we have a typo here. This actually needs to be get answer container. My bad. I don't know why I wrote that twice. All right, so let's save. Let's see what we got here. So if we click, okay. So our functionality is working. We just got to tweak our CSS a little bit so that it looks like this. So they're stacked and it goes faster. So we probably just have a couple more typos in the CSS, I'm guessing. Let's go look. We need this to be .faq.open. Forgot that, because the .open will actually make that happen, like make it work. And then same thing, FAQ.open. And then we need to do, let's see, 0.4 seconds. That's why that's taking forever. Should be faster now. There we go. Okay, so there's that. Now we can see it's kind of working, right? Now we got to fix this big gap here. So this min height needs to actually be max height 0. That'll close that gap a lot. Let's give FAQ a cursor pointer so that the user knows that it's clickable, like that. I think that's how they do it. Yeah. And then there's even a hover effect, so let's add that. Say transition. We'll do opacity. Say 0.1 second. Ease in. FAQ hover. We'll say opacity 0.9. So that way when they hover over it now, it'll do something. I think there's actually lights up. Yeah, it lights up a little bit more. So we could give it like a background color, I guess. Say transition background color. And then background color 333. There we go. We'll just do 333. That kind of lights it up. That's probably what it is too. So there we go. We'll do that. And notice how I'd used background color here for the transition. A lot of times I just put all. It's kind of lazy. You're supposed to put whatever, like, you know, the one property, if it is just one property that you're going to change, you're supposed to actually put it here. But whatever, you can use all or the property, whatever you want. Doesn't really make that big of a difference. And then let's get rid of, see this gap here that's actually being caused by this padding. So let's get rid of that on our answer container. And now it's looking better. So now we just have to use our little answer text container. Let's see, did we forget to, what did we call it? We called it FAQ text container. So let's grab this. This is why we made that class, because I knew we'd have that issue. Let's put this here, FAQ. So this is basically like the paragraphs. And then just to see how it's all up against the edges now, we don't want that. So we'll just say padding all around of 1 rem. And there we go. Let's see, how does it look here? So it might even be more than that. It might be like let's say 1.5. Let's see, that's better. So that our text has some room now. So there's that one. There's this one. So that's pretty much working. I mean, that's like the functionality that we want exactly, pretty much. So very cool. And then notice how our X appears, our plus goes away, and then it comes back. Yeah. So that's it. So now let's just go ahead and fill in the remaining questions and answers that we need. So what is this here? How much does Netflix cost? Should be the second one. So say how, fuck, way too much, right? How much does Netflix cost? And then copy this, get rid of this paragraph. It's just one here. And then paste the answer right here. Save. And there we go. How much does Netflix cost? There we go. Oh, did we get the wrong one? How much is Netflix? No, watch Netflix. I just, oh, okay. So let's copy. How many more do we have? Like 4 more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So let's just copy this one down. This FAQ answer container right here. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4. Save. There we go. All right, so then let's just keep filling in our stuff here. So starting here, our third one is where can I watch? Where can I watch? And this one has 2 paragraphs. So we'll do the first one. So watch anywhere, blah, blah, blah. And then let's copy this down. And then you can also download, blah, 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 all that stuff. Just paste that here. Okay, there we go. All right, let's keep going down. How do I cancel? That's pretty bad that that's right there, right? Let's see, how do I cancel? Netflix is flexible, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And then where can I watch Netflix? Or what can I watch on Netflix? Sorry. So we'll say, what can I watch on Netflix? Copy this. Paste in our answer. Check our work. Can I watch on Netflix? Okay, good. And then how much does Netflix cost? Or no, sorry. Is Netflix good for kids? We'll say, is Netflix good for kids? We'll paste this in here. This is another 2 paragraph answer. There's 1. And then copy this. 2. Okay. Is Netflix good for kids? There we go. So now let's just add some mobile styles, and all we'll really have to do is just change the font sizes for stuff, because the way that our code is set up, it's just going to be always 100% across, and the answers are always no matter what the size screen. So we just have to change like how big the fonts are and the icons sizes. So let's grab all of our font size stuff that we'll need. So I'm just going to copy all this that has font sizes, and we'll go down and we'll say starting at like 767 is when we should probably make our fonts smaller, right? That's like all mobile. So let's go all the way to the bottom here, paste. And this doesn't have a font size, so we'll get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of this. Everything else does though. So this will go down to like 21, say 21, 30, 30, 21. Okay. So that's 767. So once we hit this smaller screens, okay. And then we might even have to make it go down more on super small screens. So let's just copy all of this. And the 350 and lower, I have a feeling we're going to need to change that. So let's just right click and inspect. And then let's view our mobile devices. Let's go to small screen like an S8. Let's see. That's 360. That looks okay. Let's go to, where's the really, there we go, 320. Yeah, it's definitely going to be smaller. So let's do 16, 16, and 20, 20. There we go. Now everything will fit nicely in there, even on really small screens. And then we could probably even tweak it for 550 and lower. So let's do 25, 25 for the icons, and 18 and 18. So that when we go to other smartphones, it'll be also a little bit smaller. Not quite as small, but smaller. Just like that. That looks good. We don't want it to be like super big. Yeah. Okay. And then the width is already 100% on this. Everything else that we're using is just like naturally going to be responsive. So every screen should be looking good. Can do our drag test, but okay. So let's see. Down, down, down. Our font sizes will change. Boom, right there. Okay. So that's it for our FAQ area. I mean, let's add some padding down here, and let's add a little bit more margin padding. So let's go back up here to our desktop FAQ. And let's select our FAQs section as a whole. And I'll say margin, 3 rem top and bottom, 0 rem left and right. And then, yeah, good with that. So we got some breathing room down here now. Cool. That's pretty much it for like our sections. I guess we have one more small section to go, which is our little CTA down here. Ready to start or ready to watch or restart your membership area. So we'll do this next. And then after that, it's just the footer, a really simple footer. So that's the footer. So let's knock these out and we'll be done with this project. So the good news is that we've already made our little CTA area. I'm literally just going to copy paste our CTA area from up here. So we're not going to have to do any coding for that. We just need to put our paragraph in. So let's go to index, and we're going to do another section for this, and we'll call this bottom CTA. So bottom call to action. And then we'll put it's pretty small, so I'm just going to put a paragraph here, and I'm going to give it a class of bottom CTA-P for paragraph. And then it just has ready to watch, just has this stuff in here. So we'll put that there. And then I'm literally just going to go copy and paste our email CTA form from the showcase because it's literally the same. It's the same everything pretty much. So save us a ton of time, and it'll already be styled and responsive and all that good stuff. So this form is email CTA form. I'm gonna copy that and paste it right here below our paragraph and save. See that? That's pretty much it, and it's already going to be responsive and everything. So let's style up we pretty much have to make the paragraph white. So let's grab bottom CTAP, or actually let's grab bottom CTA section. I'm going to make our comment here. So we'll say bottom CTA. And we'll say dot bottom CTA. Say margin. Really, we just need, let's see. Yeah, we'll do margin. So we'll say margin top and bottom 3 rem, 0 rem left and right. And then let's style our bottom CTA paragraph. Let's grab this. And we got to make the color white. Text align center. And then I'll say font size about 21 pixels. Okay, so ready to watch. Enter your email to create or restart your membership. And then let's just check it on other screen sizes to make sure that it's good to go. Should be. So here's iPhone. So the width on that bad boy, did we not make that a percentage? Should be email input, right? Let's do a control F on here. I think the class for that is email input. Email input width 100%. Oh, because I didn't put the container in here. My bad. Dot container. And we could have just wrapped this whole page in the container, but it's fine. So there we go. Now it'll all be mobile responsive by default. Containers around there. Check it on really small screens just to double check. Yep. Okay. So that was the easiest part we've ever done, right? It's already done for us pretty much. Everything else is the same. All right, love that copy paste. So, and that's a good thing that we did. Whenever you have like multiple input fields on landing pages, which is quite common, and if they look the same, just give it a generic class name, and then you can just copy paste it whenever else you have to use it on the page, right? So now let's go below our main tag. That's our last section before the footer. Everything else we're just going to make the footer. So this phone number is going to be part of the footer, these menus, and then we have another language selector that we'll copy paste, and then just a little text right here. Here's what it looks like on desktop. Okay. So let's get that done. Not too difficult, just some menus and some text. So let's go below our main tag. Let's do our footer tag. And then in our footer, again, we'll make sure we have our container. So we'll say dot container. And then the first thing we're going to do is this little phone number here. So I'm going to do a paragraph with the class of phone number. And then in the phone number, we'll just copy paste the text. Questions, call 1-800-you're-screwed.com. Okay, so we got the phone number in there, and then after that, we just have footer menus. So I'm going to it's just these menus that we have to deal with. So below the phone number, I'm going to have a div, and I'm going to call it footer menus container. And then there's going to be, on desktop at least, there's 3 separate menus, so we're going to have 3 of them. Or no, there's 4. There's 4 separate menus. So in our foot, and then it just looks like they use Flex, so we'll do that. They just combine everything. We'll do the same thing, but on desktop, it's 4 separate menus. So we're gonna say dot footer dash menu. That'll be one of the menus. Or sorry, yeah, footer menu, but it needs to be a UL. So ul.footer menu. And then within the footer menu, it's going to have an li with the class of footer-menu-li. Then we have an anchor tag, and those are all going to have a class of footer menu link. And then they don't need hrefs because they're not going anywhere. And then within our footer menu links, we're just going to have what we need to have. So what's the first one? Let's just make this smaller, make this a little bit bigger. So let's just make this small. It's not going to work. Too small. So the first one is FAQ. FAQ Media Center. So it's just, how many do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's copy this down. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so 5 more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have FAQ Media Center. Media Center. Redeem gift cards. Redeem gift cards. Privacy. Speed test. And add choices. And they've actually changed this. When I just made this a couple days ago, there was only 3 of these little menus down here. Now there's 4. So they added a whole other menu down here, which is kind of crazy. These corporate websites change so often. It's crazy. Can't see anything, but our stuff is all here. We'll style it in a little bit. Let's just get all of our menus down. So I need 1, 2, 3 more menus. So say UL. I'm gonna copy this down 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Now I have 4 menus. And then I'm just gonna keep going here. So let's go back up. So here's our first menu. Here's our second menu. So we're on the second menu now. Okay. And then again, we're just going to go down and do all the links. So we have Help Center. So we'll say Help Center. Investor Relations. Buy gift cards. Cookie preferences. And legal notices. And then that's it for that one. So we can get rid of add choices down. We don't need this LI for this menu. There's one less link on that one. All right, next menu is account, jobs, ways to watch, corporate information, all that. So we'll say account, jobs, ways to watch, corporate information, and only on Netflix. And then we don't need this last LI again. And then onto the final menu, we have Netflix house, Netflix shop, terms of use, say contact us, do not sell or share my personal information. So that's kind of alarming that you would have to click on that and opt into that, because what that probably means is Netflix, and we already know this, but like all these companies sell all your stuff. If you Google your first and last name right now, and like your area where you live, like you're actually, all of your stuff is going to come up on Google most likely. It's really scary, dude. Like if people wanted to find you, they could find you. Kind of scary. All right, so do not sell my personal information. Let's get rid of this LI. Okay, so that's all the menu stuff that we're going to need. And I know we can't see anything now, but it's all here. It's just, one big long list right now until we separate everything. So let's just continue getting our HTML down. So the next thing that we're going to need is our language selector, which we're just going to copy from our top menu. So let's go copy that down. Right here is language selector. Copy that. And that's going to go, let's see, it's got to go below our menus or footer menus container. So where does that one end? Ends right there. So put our selector there. And that should already be styled. Oh, there it is. And then just this little text right here. So let's go below the form. And then we'll say paragraph dot footer reCAPTCHA text. And then we'll just copy and paste this in here. And then the learn more has to be in a link. So let's put that in an anchor tag. And we'll give it a class of learn more link. I'll put learn more in there. And then that's down there. All right, so everything's here. Let's go ahead and style this up and finish this out. So since there's 4 menus now, I'm probably going to use grid to display these across, each menu across, and then we'll combine stuff or do what we got to do accordingly. All right, so let's get the colors of all of our stuff. This like light gray color, let's get all that on there so we can actually see the content on here. That should be like the first thing that we do. So let's make this smaller again. So let's select our phone number first. So right here, a phone number paragraph. And let's do our footer comment. We'll say footer. And then let's give this the color. So the color of the text in the footer is hashtag B3, B3, B3. It's like a off grayish color. Okay, so there it is. And then we're going to give that a font size of 21 pixels. We have to put an underline under the phone number, so let's do that with the span, the actual phone number. So I'm going to make a span element with the class of underline. And we'll put the phone number in the span element. So let's cut that and paste it in the span. Okay. And then let's grab our underline class. And we'll say dot underline text decoration underline. So save. There we go. And now let's grab our, our footer menus container. Contains all of our menus. And let's give the same color to that so that all of our links show up. Gotta copy the whole color down here. There's all of our beautiful little menu links. And then we can say 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll just use flex. Let's just say display flex, align items, flex start, and then let's see how that looks. Okay, and then we'll give them column gap of 15 rem so that they're nice and separated. I might even do less than that, like 12 rem. And then we'll give them some margin top and bottom. So we'll say margin top and bottom 3 rem, 0 rem left and right. Give them some separation from the phone number. And it might even be more than that. Let's do like 5 rem. Yeah, it's more. Okay, that's good. And then let's select our footer menu LIs. Dot footer menu LI. And we're going to give them some padding top and bottom of 0.5 rem and 0 rem left and right to separate the LIs. Now let's grab our footer menu links because by default they're all underlined. So let's grab footer menu link. Say text decoration underline. And then we'll give them a font size of 18 pixels. And we'll say cursor pointer when we hover over them. So now they're starting to look like the other ones. And we can probably just make this like 16 pixels instead of 18. It's a little too big. That's better. Okay. And there's no hover effect on these, so that's cool. Saves us time. And then we need to do the reCAPTCHA text down here because our language selector is already good to go. So let's do all the way down to the footer reCAPTCHA text. Okay, so we'll say dot footer CAPTCHA text. We'll say color B3, B3, B3. Now we can see it. We'll do margin, top and bottom, 4 rem, 0 rem, left and right. And then we'll say, we got to give the, let's see, the reCAPTCHA link. Learn more link. Got to style that up. And we'll say color. It's going to be hashtag 448EF4, that blue color. And then we're going to say text decoration underline and cursor pointer. So now it looks like the real one. Let's see. Except the font size has got to be smaller. Let's say font size like 12 pixels. Save. Maybe even smaller than that. 10 pixels. And then we got to make the font size a little bit smaller because it's pretty small in the real one. So let's say font size 12 pixels. See how that looks. Maybe even smaller, 10 pixels. Oh, that's the link, sorry. Boom. So let's say font size 12 pixels. Yeah, it's about that. Yep. Oh, we'll do, I mean, we could do 13, make it a little bit bigger. Yeah, perfect. All right, so there's our page on our footer on desktop. So what we want to do is just basically flex them column when it gets to, where does this start looking bad? Let's do right click inspect, and it starts looking bad around 12, 11 pixels. So let's do, because really all we need to style is just our menu, how it's gonna display. So 12, 11, 12. So we could probably, let's see how this looks on 1280 on a Nest Hub Max. Yeah, it still displays good. So let's go to 1180 and we'll make our first style change. We'll say, let's just do flex wrap, and then see how that looks on an iPad Air at 1180 when it starts to wrap. Yeah, that's good. See, it just wraps. And then once we get down to like 1024, 768, see, it just wraps like that. So that's actually fine. And then we'll say 767 or, let's see, Blueberry Playbook. That looks fine. So all we'll do is we'll go down and just make them all stack in a single column. Or they might actually just do that by default. Let's see. Get an iPhone. Yeah, they'll do that by default with Flex Wrap. So that's actually fine. That's all we really need to do for our little bottom menu. Then our selectors here. All right, so that might be all we need to do, guys. Flex Wrap. Yeah, I mean, it works, right? That's pretty much how theirs looks. If we look on mobile, yeah, they just stack theirs, so it's the same thing. Our bottom CTA paragraph can be a little bit smaller on smaller screens. Let's go down to our bottom CTA paragraph. We're going to say font size like 18 pixels on smaller screens just to make it fit a little bit nicer. And then text align should be left, I guess, instead of center for that. Yeah, I mean, that's how they have it. So now, you know, we'll keep it center. But that should be it for everything, guys. Let's do the drag test on this. That should be our footer, nice and mobile responsive. Beautiful. And then the whole page is nice and responsive because we've been making it responsive as we go. Our FAQs work. You can even check them on smaller screens. They work just the same. And that's why I like to build stuff to where I make stuff mobile as I go. Because like once you're done, you're done. Now we don't have to go back and fix a whole broken website with 80 things that are breaking the layout. You know what I mean? I don't know how else people build stuff. Some people build the whole desktop and then build the whole mobile. I can't do that. So mobile as we go. So here's our Netflix. And then here's the real one. I mean, just the landing page, right? So pretty good. Again, their container's a lot more narrow than ours, but I think ours looks good because like look how much more readable and bigger our stuff is. I think that's actually better for user experience personally. But if you want to, like I said, if you already know some HTML and CSS and you want to make your container look like theirs where it's like way centered, like brought in a ton, you can go ahead and do that. Completely up to you, right? So thanks for watching the video, guys. Again, don't forget, check out the complete web developer course in the description. If you want 100% project-based learning with a full stack curriculum, my whole curriculum is like 37 to 38 hours for the whole full stack. All we do is build projects. You know, a lot of the Udemy courses will be 37 hours for just one single little subject. I teach you everything in practical, easy to digest lessons in all projects. So if you want to become like a productive, profitable developer who either makes money on their own or can get a job or do something fast with the code that they learn instead of going around in circles for months and months, I promise you this is the perfect course for you. Check it out, please. I want to save you time. If you're not ready for that, if you just want the free stuff, bare minimum, make sure you get your practical web dev, no BS roadmap. Follow it step by step, all the advice that I tell you, and you'll be able to learn web development much, much faster without going around in circles and trying to learn way too much and be a master at everything.